Well, what's good and good morning. Welcome to the first ever virtual PGA Works Career Workshop. My name is Jonathan Coachman. You can call me the coach. Alongside NBA star Paul Millsap, we are the newest ambassadors of PGA Works, and we're so excited to help lead the way and educate and connect young individuals, just like all of you that have signed up here today, with professionals that have already been established in the golf business, but just business really in general. Now, over the course of the next few hours, we will have 5 different sessions, 5 that we will touch on everything from at-home networking. Are you putting one foot in front of the other every single day? Owning your job search. What does that look like for you really? Career readiness. Are you prepared to walk out of school into the job market? I know there's a lot of you out there already in the job market watching today. Well, if you are you ready to evolve, pivot, change? We'll hit on that today as well. And finally, you definitely want to be here for the final session today. I think it's the most important, personal branding. How are you making yourself stand out in this incredibly competitive, unique, unprecedented job market? Now, we also want to be as interactive as possible. We know that there's going to be a lot of questions out there that you have that we're not thinking about. So we want you to send them in at any time. Now, if you don't have a Google account, very simple. Go over to our Instagram page at PGA Works. While you're there, give us a follow. Don't be scared to. But also send a direct message. Include your name, the question, the school that you're from, so we can give you credit when we read it during the workshop, and we'll try to get to as many as we possibly can. Now, on behalf of the PGA of America, PGA Reach, PGA Works, we want to thank you for trusting us today and spending time with us today and learning from us today. This project means so much to so many, especially our fearless leader, PGA President Suzy Whaley.
Hello, everyone. I'm Suzy Whaley, President of the PGA of America. And with our annual PGA Works Collegiate Championship, the most culturally significant championship in collegiate golf, on pause for the year, we thought it important to forge ahead in these trying times to deliver relevant, career-focused programming that should prove impactful for the next steps in your life. So welcome to the PGA Works Virtual Career Workshop. We're so glad you joined us. For those joining us for the first time, PGA Works is funded by PGA Reach, the 501c3 of the PGA of America. And PGA Works is a strategic initiative designed to diversify the golf industry's workforce. We believe in golf and its many virtues and the impact the game can have on people from so many different backgrounds. We invite you to consider the game as you plot your professional career path, but today's workshop is not limited to the golf space. It certainly is broader in scope. We're confident that the roster of esteemed business leaders joining you today will offer diverse perspectives and best practices that are applicable to your career readiness, job search, and/or financial future. On behalf of the PGA of America and our 29,000 PGA professionals nationwide, please enjoy the PGA Works Virtual Career Workshop.
All right, by the way, PGA President Suzy Whaley will be joining us a little bit later on today live during this workshop. She's actually teaching right now because that's what PGA professionals do. Okay, it's time to get started with our first session, at-home networking. Don't forget, during this presentation, any questions you have, send them in. We want to answer them for you. Frida Lee is a Senior Vice President, Head of Relationship Management for AIG Retirement Services. Frida, good morning. It's a pleasure to have you kick off our workshop today. The floor is yours.
Excellent. Well, guys, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here. Talking to college students is probably one of my favorite things. I enjoyed college immensely, learned so much. But one thing I will tell you, and I'm so proud to be a part of this partnership, continue to learn. And I think that's what we strive to do today, do that together. So let's jump right in. We've got a lot of exciting topics, and I'm going to hang around all day today to hear these exciting speakers right along with you. So let's jump right in. I'm going to start sharing my presentation, and let's treat this more as a conversation. And we will go right into, all right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right, very good. So we're going to talk about at-home networking strategies. And, I'll start off a little bit with what do we, before COVID-19, right? Because I'm sure everyone is thinking of things now in terms of before and after. And I know we'll look back on this unique time and wonder how we did things beforehand, right? And how we will adjust and do things differently. I will tell you, as college students, you guys probably sit in one of the best positions because you're young, you're technology savvy, and you have the best ability to be able to pivot. And I think right now, being able to pivot and adapt is going to be such a crucial skill set. And so I'm excited for what that means for you. So let's just start about, what kind of things were you probably doing or should have been doing or thinking about in terms of networking before COVID. So let's talk a little bit about that, because some of this, as we start to get back to, what other, folks in the media and others are calling our new normal, let's think about some of those strategies that we want to make sure are in your toolkit. First of all, think about building your networking into your everyday routine. And what does that mean, right? So you are, I'm sure, online every day and, connecting with friends and family and what have you. What if you took an opportunity every day to kind of think about, there was a professor that I really was interested in a lecture that they provided, or there was some executive that you met at some event or some PGA pro that you met. What about shooting them an email or connecting with them online? So think about every day, not necessarily having to do something, but thinking about making a plan so that you can develop a routine so that you exercise that muscle to continue to make sure you're connecting and and networking and staying connected with folks who you've met who can potentially lead you to other opportunities or other introductions along the way. Getting involved on campus. One thing I think you guys have already checked that box, right? Many of you are already involved with sports, golf, of course, for many of you who are joining us today, but other activities as well, right? Think of student leadership. Think of things where your professors may need assistance for research. Think of your, community service organizations on campus, but try to find some way to get involved. It really starts to build up that portfolio for you where you can start to really think and show and illustrate where you have done other activities while you spent your time on college campus. Every college has a campus career center as well, right? Think about when things get back to some sort of new normal, we'll call it. How are you guys making sure you're spending time going online, right? Checking in to understand what type of corporations recruited your colleges, what things interest you. Sometimes if corporations just come to campus for an informational event, even if you don't know what they do, it's a great opportunity to go by and visit with them to make sure you understand that. And then make sure you're, again, taking advantage of those networking clubs, any of those type of groups on campus that are trying to collect you, especially when alumni show up. Make sure you're spending time with those folks and getting to know them. Now, online presence. I know I'm right here in you guys' sweet spot, right? And it's funny, when I looked at this graphic, I saw Facebook and I thought, well, that's probably not their primary source, given you guys' age group. But the point here is, think about your online presence. What does it say about you, especially LinkedIn? And I know one of my colleagues who will be speaking later is going to talk a little bit more about that. But I want you all to think about, how am I showing up online? Because as you can imagine, those folks who will someday become interested in you for professional opportunities, they can do a quick search online and they want to see that, one, you're being, I don't want to overuse the word appropriate, but I think that's something we have to talk about, right? Is how are you showing up online? And you have to also make sure you're making a distinction between your LinkedIn presence as well as how you are demonstrating that in Instagram and Twitter and all those other things. So just be conscious of that. So I'm excited to hear our speaker later this morning who gives us a little bit more information on that. Be open to new connections. I couldn't tell you, this is one of the things I would emphasize probably the most of all. And I know we've got a few, introverts amongst us who probably a little hesitant to meet new folks who they may not naturally have met along the way, but be open to that, right? If there's someone who a friend knows or a professor knows, or you met an alumnus, be open to having someone say, hey, would you mind introducing me via email or what have you? Again, thinking about some of those tools that you guys can use. Again, would have been helpful before, but will certainly be helpful once we get past this COVID-19. And to that end, don't be afraid to make the first move. And what I mean by that is it's okay to send an email to someone who you don't know, who you've been introduced to. And it's okay to say, hi, Frida, I met you at this event. I was really interested in what you were talking about. If you have a moment for, a virtual coffee break, now we'd look at it. Do that. I am really excited when I hear from people like that, because one thing it shows me is that you're being bold. And one thing I will tell you, if you think about how do you move, especially in this environment, and how do you get ready for career paths, is about being bold. There's going to be a lot of changes that come about as a result of this pandemic that we're all experiencing as a global community. But I do believe we will come out of this stronger. We will come out of this at some point, and there will be opportunities that may be different for us to all think about. And it will take those who are bold among us to try and find those ways where we can make an impact. Again, talked about this, connecting with folks, cold email, right? And what does that mean? Again, emailing someone out of the blue. You may have gotten their email from a connection with someone, or you saw them present, or you saw something online that they shared or posted on LinkedIn, perhaps, that interested you. Send them a follow-up email. Connect with them and just say, hey, I really enjoyed that. Ask them a question. Sometimes people respond, sometimes they won't, but it's okay. The upside is if you get a response, that's an end for you to continue that conversation. So don't be afraid to do that. And one thing I will tell you is so important, and I think we all have to get better at, and I will tell you, before we all joined on you guys today on this virtual event, we all were talking about how do we make sure we're, even as professionals who've been out out of college for some time, maintaining your networks is something we all have to practice doing. And I say that to myself. You have to practice it, right? Because we all get busy, work, school, what have you. And it is something you have to remember to do. And I will tell you this, having been in this environment of quarantine for the last several weeks, I have heard from more people from past jobs, from college and graduate school. It has really been nice for people to open up their, phones and decide, I hadn't talked to her in a while. Shoot me a quick text or an email. And I've been doing the same and have been really gratified by, connecting with folks who I haven't spoken to in some time. Also, think about part-time jobs and internships, right? Anybody you've met along the way, stay in touch with them. I was reading somewhere that I think it was, not everybody started out, right? Not all of us started out where we are, clearly, right? Folks have part-time jobs. One of my first part-time jobs was wrapping gifts during Christmas at Bell's, which is a department store in Louisiana, okay? Now, did I really meet anybody there that probably made an impact? Not really sure, but one of my good friends who worked with me, she and I stay in touch today because we literally, one of her jokes now still is, you still can't wrap presents, can you? And we laugh about that, but it's great. She's a great connection to have. She is a doctor at Vanderbilt and lives in Nashville. And she's just a great person that I've maintained contact with through high school, because she and I didn't really know each other well at high school, but we worked alongside each other on a couple of shifts wrapping gifts over Christmas. One of those small kind of things, that's just a small example, but you think of, where did Oprah Winfrey start? Where did Warren Buffett start? Where did Madonna? I saw that she was a barista. So you don't know what connections you make, but you have to make sure you're making connections wherever you are. All right, so great advice, right? Before COVID. Now that it's after COVID-19, or we're still in the midst of it, I should say, and this whole concept of social distancing, these large events that we would have normally been able to attend, those aren't available to us. So one thing I want us to start thinking about is, what do we do now? Okay, so first step, I want to congratulate all of you for doing the first bullet, taking the first action on the very first bullet I have on here, which is attending virtual professional events. I know at first everybody's kind of like, how are these virtual events going to work? Are they going to be engaging? Is it just people talking to them? I will tell you, I've done a couple of these over the last couple of months and have truly enjoyed these. One, because you're getting sometimes to get access to things that you may not have been able to do before, or you may not have been able to travel to because of schedules or other commitments. So it's been nice to be able to do that. So take the time to attend more of those. researching companies of interest to you. We talked about that even before COVID. But this is a great time, right? You've got some downtime. Use that time to figure out what companies interest me. What companies are going to be in a great position coming out of COVID-19? With every crisis or every shift in an economy, there are going to be winners. There are going to be some losers too, right? But think about what those companies are that are really going to thrive after this, and think about what they do and how that might be of interest to you as you think about progressing in your college career. And of course, if you can, learn a new skill, right? If there's anything you can do or thought, I really need to, spend some time tweaking during this time, do it. This is a perfect time to do that. And may I also encourage you to read? I know this is probably sounding a little, everyone reads books. No, this is a great time to take a pause, right? I've looked at this. I heard someone say on a show the other day, this is not a time, don't look at this as a time of separation. Look at this as a time of preparation. And so what I would say to you is I've read 2 books since we have been separated, all working from home and so forth, distance learning. And one of the books I read was Make Up Your Bed. And it appealed to me just because of the title, quite frankly. But it was really just about little things that get you into good habits. And as you all go out into, people want to call the real world. I believe college is part of the real world. But as you guys start to think professionally about what you're going to do when you leave home and start working and living on your own, it's a great read. The second book that I read was Failing Up. And this was by Leslie Odom. If any of you guys are Hamilton fans, which I am, I've seen Hamilton 3 times. I cannot wait for the movie to come out on Disney next month or in July. But it's a great read because people often look at folks who are successful and assume that they just got this success overnight. He talks about many, many, many failures and rejections. And I think it's such a good lesson for all of us to know that no one jumps right in. No one goes right to the top of their profession. You have to fail, and there's no shame in failure. In fact, there's lessons in failure. So it's such a great read. And then the third one I would recommend, because this is a book that it's one of those timeless books. It talks about the Book of Joy. The title is The Book of Joy. And it's stories from the Dalai Lama as well as Desmond Tutu. And I've just begun this book. And one of the reasons I did it is because in this space we're in right now, one of the things I've been trying to really make sure I manifest happiness and joy in my own life. And this has really been a book that has really started to speak to me. So not necessarily recommending that you have to pick these books, but I just want to share with you what I'm reading right now. And my hope for you all is that you would take that time for yourself to read a little bit more. Listen to Audible if you go out on a run. Do something, right, that helps to enrich you in ways that will really be meaningful to you down the road. And then kind of as we, think about this, again, we'll talk a little bit more about your virtual presence. And I know one of my colleagues will do that as well. Focus on that. Create content and connections online. What do I mean by that? If there's something that you really have an interesting perspective on, or you wrote a paper about, or any of those kind of things at school that might be worth sharing, you never know whose interest it may pique. So post it on LinkedIn. Connect with folks. And here's another one. And I know it's going to sound crazy right now, but apply for jobs and internships. People are hiring. And even if they're not hiring now, they will be hiring again someday for jobs and internships. And you want to have your resume already ready and in their queue. Okay. And I will end by saying, and I'm really looking forward to the questions, do good. And what does that mean? It means take this time, not only after COVID, but I would even suggest that even when things get back to the new normal, always find time to do good. Do good enriches you in so many ways. And I tell people, don't do it just for a resume filler. Do it because it's something that speaks to you. Find something, some organization, some initiative that really speaks to who you are and what you're passionate about, and do good. Because doing good for others makes you not only feel better, you're contributing to the greater whole of society. And I will tell you, as employers, when we see that kind of thing on resumes, it really makes a connection for us that these are folks that we want to make a part of our organization. So with that, I'm ready for the Q&A. Let me stop presenting. We'll go back to this part. All right. Coach?
Frida, fantastic. I've got a few I want to start with for myself,
Okay.
and then if anybody at home wants to send in their questions, send them in here. If you don't have a Google account, again, you can go to our Instagram page, PGA WORKS, send us a DM, include your school as well. You mentioned the preparation and being ready to pivot and change. What does that preparation look like? They say, well, go and do it. Well, what's like the first thing that they need to do to prepare to do something they're not comfortable with?
Sure. So I would say in your network, everybody knows a friend of a friend or someone. You know, there's this whole notion of 6 degrees of separation. Find someone in your comfort zone, right? That you know, a professor who you know you can talk to, or older sibling or parent, somebody, and say, sit down with me and help talk me through how I'd have a phone conversation with someone about a job, and practice. It's okay to practice. And I think that's a great way to get comfortable. I want us all to start getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And the more you do it, it'll never get easy, but it will start to feel more comfortable and more natural, I think.
The first thing you said, the open to new connections. I just had a buddy. And we're going to be telling a lot of stories today, because I think, Frida, it's important that we relate our stories to the young professionals who are watching right now. And he was already established in our business, and he got furloughed, and he was upset. And he called me, asked for advice. And I told him, I said, go back through who you know. Everything you kind of hit, I told him to do. And I said, you never know. And now he just got a vice president spot in a bigger company than where he was at, because he did all the networking that you're talking about. So I think it's really important. You say, don't be scared to do the new connections. I think that's the scariest thing for people, especially young students or young professionals. Would you agree?
I would agree completely. And I will tell you, and you know, any of my colleagues who are on now will probably find this really humorous and not agree at all with what I'm about to say. I used to be so quiet and shy.
No.
I'm the youngest of 4. And my dad would always say to me, if you don't speak up, people won't see you. And something about that just stuck with me. If you don't speak up, no one's going to see you. And so I somehow came out of my shell. You'll break through at some point. Something will work for you, and it will build a confidence in you that will be hard. And I hope it will be impossible to put out, right? I hope that confidence just continues to build in you once you get a win under your belt. Confidence
is such a crucial thing. And I think right now, more than it's ever been, going into the job market, because I think a lot of people, and I've had people reach out to me the last few days on LinkedIn getting ready for this workshop, and I feel like that's the overwhelming theme, is they just don't feel confident because in their minds there's no place for them to go right now.
That's right.
How do you get over that as a professional like myself, or as a young professional just coming out of school?
Yeah, it's so funny. I was talking to a college friend of mine last night, same kind of thing. Her company just announced layoffs, and she's worried, and understandably so, right? And one of the things we said is, okay, take a deep breath. She is an incredible marketing professional. She has 20 some odd years working for a Fortune 100 company. You have great skills, right? And part of it was find somebody to pump you up, right? Because you need to sometimes be reminded that you're awesome. She has a great skill set. And I said to her, look out on my LinkedIn and any of our friends' LinkedIns who we went to college with. If there's someone out there who someone needs to make an introduction, ping them and let them help them get an introduction for you. But don't start feeling down on yourself, and don't start feeling woeful about it, because I'm a believer that what you're putting in is what you exude out. So you've got to find that way to be confident. So, because when you're talking to people want to hire people who are confident.
I usually give myself a day. So I was recently the head voice of the XFL. It folded, and that stunk, right?
Yeah.
So I gave myself a day. And then I got right back on the horse. Okay, that job's gone. I'm going to pivot, and I'm going to focus on this one. So that's really, really important. We have a question, Frida, from Black Girls Golf. What information can you share with seasoned professionals who have joined this morning? And there are several of those outside of the sport of golf.
Well, again, one of the things I would say is, first of all, Black Girls Golf, that is an awesome name for your group. What I would say the biggest thing I would advocate for is this notion of professional connections and organizations to become a part of, going to conferences that are really just for you. I know sometimes we do a lot of conferences because we need to do that for our employer, but you've got to find something to do just for you, even if you have to pay for it, because if you don't invest in yourself, you cannot expect others to invest in you. So I would say that is my biggest advice, is to continue looking for, there's so many out there. I know Black Enterprise had one back in March that was geared towards African-American women, professionals. There's so many worthy organizations out there that do a great job of putting presenters in front of folks who can give you a diverse perspective. And I think that is really important as you start to think about, hey, what do I want to do next? Or how do I make myself better in the role that I sit in today?
But isn't it important, too, to understand when people may be sitting at home going, I thought they were talking about at-home networking, and now we're talking about getting out. No, when we talk about it now, the new normal is virtual is going to be the same as in person.
Let me be clear. It's the same, because even if you're sitting on this, virtual workshop with several hundred other people, you can still connect with us afterwards, right? You may not be able to walk up to me and ask me for my information, but you have all of our names now, right? You can go connect with us on LinkedIn. It's the same thing. And frankly, I mean, I can't tell you the last time I've given out a business card at any of those events anyway, because, like everything else, especially the ladies amongst us, it falls to the bottom of your bag and then you never find it again. So to me, LinkedIn is the best way to do that. You connect with folks, it pops up in your inbox, and you've got a connection. And I think in this virtual environment, practice that now. So even when we finally do get back to going to conferences or any of those things, you exercise the muscle now that you can take with you going forward, because I don't believe we're going to ever go back truly to, this is fast forwarded a lot of things for folks where we've got to really utilize technology a lot better and faster. And it has pushed us that way. And I think we all need to embrace that.
Keep the questions coming in. If you don't have a Google account, go over to our Instagram, PGA Works. Give us a follow, send a DM. We'll get the questions on here. I've got a question from Rachel. How do you start your network, Frida? Some may feel awkward with a cold call or an email that you suggested.
Yeah, so great question. I started, right out of college. So let me start. I went to Howard University for undergrad. And I began my career at Arthur Andersen in DC. So I really hadn't established, right out of college, I had a job. Well, one thing I was a little hesitant about was, okay, so now I'm working. When I left and went to graduate school, I felt a little bit like, what do I do next? But one thing I did was I kept in contact with my managing partner, who was my boss. And so along my career, I always connected with him, and he would introduce me to someone, and then I would connect with them. But let me just tell you a word of advice. If someone introduces you to their connections, to their network, you protect that. What I mean by that is, if you are introduced to someone by someone who is a trusted person in your network, and then you don't follow up or you don't show up well, that is a poor reflection on them. So I will tell you, protect that, because if you show up well to that next individual, then they'll introduce you to their network. So it starts with just one or two, right? You don't have to call, it doesn't have to mean building with 500. It doesn't start that way. It starts with one person who you feel comfortable with and can trust, and they will then introduce you to other people.
A lot of questions coming in right now, Frida. People are pumped about what you're talking about. Wesley Hughes from Georgetown. Speaking of DC, Georgetown University, says hello. My question is, how do you handle the balance between creating meaningful connections and connections purely for professional advancement? That's the first question. I'll let you answer that. Then he has a second question as well.
Wow, that's a good one. So it's interesting because I think I'm at this place now where my connections have all muddled together somehow. I'm a wife and mother of a 12-year-old, so I have other parents who I interact with who happen to be professionals, or board memberships or board seats that I sit on. I meet people through so many different ways. They start to muddle together, and that's okay. Because I want people to know that I have a lot of different interests, right? So it's okay that, a friend of my neighbor who is, a doctor at the local hospital, but our kids play together and go to school together. Well, that's great, because sometimes when we're looking for a physician or something to speak on a panel or whatever, I know who to call to get connections. I don't necessarily look to separate them, because you never know two things. A friend can come out of a professional connection, and a professional connection can come out of a friendship. So I just say, keep yourself open to them. They're going to sometimes mesh just because of the way life is right now.
I would also say that you really never know what somebody is going to be interested in too. And personal interests definitely are affected when you're in an environment like that.
Absolutely. Because frankly, I met the CEO of a local hospital here, not because we were in any professional environment. We were literally at 6th grade orientation. She bumped into me and spilled her drink. And she said, "I'm so sorry. I'm new to the school." And I was like, "No big deal. What's your daughter's name?" "Oh, here's my daughter's name." "Oh, same grade." And from there, we started talking. And then she said she was new to town. I said, "What do you do?" She said she works for Women's Hospital. I was like, "Oh, that's where I had my daughter." And she goes, "Oh, well, I just took a new job there. What do you do?" She said, matter of factly, "I'm the CEO." Right?
How about that?
And so it was, again, we had the conversation was, we met at school. We were talking about kids. She spilled her drink on me, but we have become friends. And really, she's a great network person, a person to have. And I've been introducing her to folks, not because we're in the same field necessarily, but she's new to Houston and the business community. So that's been a really plus, just having met her.
Never think, too, that whatever your skills do not translate to something else. And when I look at my own personal career, and most people know me from professional wrestling. And when I said that I wanted to do golf, there's so many people said those two things don't match up. They don't go together. Well, when we took Sports Center to WrestleMania, and then 2 days later I was at the Masters, and so many people had gone to both events.
Yeah.
And that was eye-opening for me 10 years ago to say, wait a second. So a lot of people have a lot of interest, and you never know unless you put yourself in front of them.
Coach,
don't assume
that's
that they
right.
don't.
I started out as an auditor. So you don't have to stay where you start, right?
There you go.
Use it as a leveraging point.
Second question, and we've just got 2 minutes left with you, and I'm sorry, 30 minutes goes by so fast.
It does.
Other question, what are some ways to balance yourself while trying to land the entry-level position and not mess up the relationships, I think is what he's asking.
Yeah. So I'm going to have to go back a few years to think about an entry-level position. I graduated from Howard. I won't even tell my year. I'm sure you guys can all figure it out once you go to LinkedIn. But they did a lot of on-campus recruiting. Okay. So I will tell you that is why I'm such an advocate of the Campus Career Center. I don't know that I would have gotten a job but for the Campus Career Center, because being a part of a business school student, they brought corporations to us. And so while we researched and did all those things, they helped to establish the process for us and bringing those corporations to us. So my interviews were through that channel. I messed up a few. I'm going to be honest with you. I did some, I bombed, but you know what? You don't get good at things until you do them a few times. And so after I had a couple opportunities coming out of college, but I chose the Arthur Andersen one, not because I loved audit, but because they had a training program that was very defined and rigorous. And for me, I felt like if I could get in and really learn about what they do, I could find my way. So I will tell you, don't be afraid of stumbling, but you got to interview a bit, frankly, before you can, some people will get it on the first one, some won't. But I will tell you, you got to try, put your foot out there. You're going to get disappointed. It's okay. Get up, get back up, keep interviewing. It's like anything else. You will finally get it and you will find the position that's right for you. And if it's not, guess what? Nothing has to be permanent.
That's exactly right. Well, Frida, I've loved this time with you.
Likewise.
Tell people where they can find you on LinkedIn real quick.
You can find me, Frida Lee, and again, I'm with AIG Retirement Services. Looking forward to hearing from you guys, and I wish you all nothing but the best of luck and stay well.
Frida, we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you.
All right, Frida Lee, that was fantastic. Our first session today on the first ever PGA WORKS Career Virtual Workshop. If you're just joining us, I'm Jonathan Coachman, your moderator for the afternoon. We have 5 sessions today. First one in the books. Keep the questions coming. We appreciate that. If you don't have a Google account, go over to our Instagram page at PGA WORKS. Send us a DM, include your college and your name so we can ask the question here on the workshop. Okay, it is now time for session number 2. If you are not comfortable in your job search, are you not comfortable during this unprecedented job market? If you're not comfortable, we want to make you comfortable. Yolanda Crawford-Urey is the senior HR business partner leading the HR team and supporting AIG's retirement services. Yolanda, good morning. Please bring some confidence to our audience as you teach us this morning about this. All right, so Yolanda's not quite there yet. While we work on her, we can answer a couple of more questions. Is Yolanda there now?
I'm here.
Awesome. Yolanda, go ahead. The floor is yours. Good morning.
All right, good morning. Let me pull up my screen.
It's going to be a hard act to follow, by the way. You understand that, correct?
I know. I should have learned. All right. So owning your job search in uncertain times. So we are truly in uncertain times. And what I will tell you is Frida has set it up for me. Awesome. Thank you, Frida. So some of the things that I will talk about will be a repeat, but we are human. So things that are repeated, we tend to remember. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time this morning on resume building, but I do want to make a couple points about your resume. Your resume is the first thing that most recruiters and hiring managers will see. So it is important that you check for any spelling and grammar mistakes. So read your resume over, have someone else read it again, because you don't want to be pulled away from getting an interview because of your resume having a minor mistake in it. So for those of you online, go to the chat and answer this question. How much time do you think an employer spends reviewing your application and your resume? I'll tell you, 15 to 20 seconds minimum, 45 seconds maximum. So not even a full minute. So you want to make sure that when individuals are reviewing your resume, that they're getting the best of you and that you're standing out. So I hope through our conversation today and through the various speakers that you will come away with some tips on how to stand out and make your job search a very eventful search. All right, LinkedIn. So Frida talked a lot about LinkedIn, and I'm going to talk about it as well, and I'll go a little bit more detailed around it. LinkedIn is your professional profile. So you want to make sure, one, that you have a LinkedIn profile. I don't know if everyone on this call has one, and so if you don't, your to-do after this session is to set up a profile. You want to make sure that you have a professional photo, one that is very representative of you. Also, make sure that you're completing the entire profile. Don't leave any gaps or spaces. Make sure that you're including the volunteer section. A lot of companies want to know that individuals are well-rounded, they're in their communities, they're involved, they have a passion for something. I know our company, AIG, we're very involved in our community. So we're always looking for individuals who meet our values, and one of them is giving back. You want to be active on LinkedIn. And what I mean by active is read articles, like articles, share them. If you've written an article, post it out there and get comments. You want to be visible on LinkedIn. And I will tell you, and this is what Frida was mentioning earlier, be mindful of who's in your network. Again, LinkedIn is a professional tool. So your friends that you may have on Instagram or Facebook may not be the same people that you have on LinkedIn. You want people in your network who can help start your career if you're coming right out of college, someone who can help you grow in your career, or maybe just a mentor. So make sure you're mindful. It's not about the number of connections, but the connections that you have are meaningful. The next thing I'll talk about is the approach of applying for a job and waiting is outdated. And I'll tell you, it's probably as outdated as wearing K-Swiss tennis shoes. Many of you on this call probably don't even know what K-Swiss tennis shoes. When I was growing up, I called them knockoff Adidas. But you want to be active in your search, and you can't just sit back and wait. In a survey, 78% of more than 320,000 hires were offline. And what we mean by offline means those hires came from either an employee referral, a recruiter making a connection with someone who introduced them to the role or to the hiring manager. So a lot of things are taking place that are not necessarily through the systems or the company's applicant tracking system. Another thing you want to do, and LinkedIn is a great resource, is research the companies of interest to you. Companies that you're seeking opportunities with, go onto their website, go to their LinkedIn profile, read about them. Via LinkedIn, you can actually see who works at those organizations. So those are individuals that you can connect with, whether it's the recruiter or if it's an employee within that department. I will tell you, there's not a day that I don't get 2 or 3 LinkedIn connection requests, not because I'm in recruiting, I'm in HR, but I don't recruit, but they have an interest in AIG and they've researched the company. The other thing that a lot of people may not think of is connect with former employees. They are a great resource of information. They can tell you about the company, the culture of the company, and give you just some additional insights that you may not get from a current employee. Virtual interviews. So that's what we really need to focus on right now as we are trying to survive in this pandemic. So a couple pointers before the interview. Find a quiet, clean, well-lit space for your interview. You don't want to be in a noisy place in your house or maybe where there's a lot of foot traffic. So find a real nice area that you can have your interview, because you want the interviewer to be focused totally on you and not what's going around. Something as simple as a ceiling fan going on or pictures in the background. You don't want the recruiter or the hiring manager to be looking at other things in your background and not focused on you. Do a practice interview. A lot of the online companies, such as Zoom, are giving free accounts. So set up an account and practice. Practice with your friend. Practice with a family member. Practice, practice, practice. It's not easy doing an interview that is not face-to-face. So you want to make sure you're very good at it. The ultimate question that a lot of people have asked, how do I dress for an interview? You want to dress as if you were having that interview in person at the company's office, including your bottom half. I'm sure all of us during this time have seen the videos where there have been some mistakes where folks may not have been appropriately dressed from the bottom down and they had to stand up or the camera was at the wrong angle. So make sure that you're dressing for the part that you want. Also, when you dress, your attitude is different. Your tone is different. Excuse me. So make sure that you are dressed from head to toe. And I'll say that again, from head to toe. So don't put on flip-flops, put on shoes. Put on shoes. Be prepared to explain and relate to the skills in the job description. One of the things that I've done in my job search is I tailor my resume based on the job description. And I look at the things that they may have repeated in the job description and make sure that I have responses and that I can bring up in the interview that matches that job description. So that person that I'm sitting with having that interview can see that I am truly a fit for that role. And be prepared to ask questions of the potential employer. They're not only interviewing you, you are interviewing them. You want to make sure that this is a best fit for you. it meets your core values, it will give you the advancement that you want. So make sure that you have some good questions. One question that I always have asked in my interviews over the year is, do you feel that I'm a good fit for the role? That's a way to get informal feedback from that person that you're interviewing with. A lot of times when people interview, they may not get feedback as to why they didn't get the role, but this is a way to get it real time from the person who may be making that decision, if you have the skills and abilities that they're looking for. Now, during the interview, make sure that you turn off all of the notifications on your phone, on your computer, because you don't want any distractions. So even today, for preparing for this presentation, I had to go through and turn off all of my notifications so I wouldn't have any pop-ups or anything to distract me. You want to connect with the interview. So make sure that you watch your tone. Yesterday, I made a call. I was a little tired. It's been a very eventful week for me. And the call center representative, he said, "How are you?" And I said, "I'm fine." And he said, "You sound really tired." And I was like, "Oh, excuse me." So I immediately changed my tone. And make sure you're making eye contact. So look at the recruiter or whomever you're interviewing with so that they know that you're engaged and you're focused and you're paying attention. Listen to the questions. Make sure that if you don't understand a question or you may not hear it, as with technology, sometimes the audio may be a little fuzzy, be okay with asking them to repeat the question. And also take your time. It's okay to pause, gather your thoughts, and then answer the question. Answer questions using the STAR method. That may be something that a lot of you all may not be familiar with, but trust me, it is used by recruiters and interviewers as they're asking behavioral questions. So what the STAR method is you want to set up the situation. You want to tell them the task. What was your role in that situation? What actions did you take? And most importantly, what were the results? And when you're doing results, make sure that you're quantifying those results. You know, I reduced turnover by 10%, or I increased my membership in the organization as president by 5%. So make sure you're putting those numbers in there so that the interviewer can understand that you truly did have results based off of what you were working on. And don't forget, ask for next steps and timeline. So that way you'll know kind of how to plan out when you may hear back from the results of your interview. After the interview, I cannot express to you how important it is to send a thank you note, whether it's handwritten, and yes, people still do handwritten thank you notes, or an email, and send it to the interviewer and anyone that was involved in you getting that interview. So if there was a coordinator who set up the interview, send them a thank you note, because you never know. One of the things that hiring managers do, and I do it myself when I'm interviewing, is I'll ask the recruiter, how was the person? What was their demeanor? Were they polite to you? Because that tells me kind of how the person is and their background. Add the interviewer to your LinkedIn profile. Again, that's another connection, because you may not get the role with them, but they will keep you in mind maybe for future roles, or they may know of another role that you may be qualified for. So you want to have them in your profile as a connection. Follow up in 7 to 10 days with the recruiter or hiring manager. Hey, thank you for the interview. Just want to let you know I'm still interested, and put something in there about that took place during that interview so it can jog their memory and make sure that they don't forget who you were and how impactful you were during that interview. And be patient. We all have a lot going on. Recruiters are busy. Hiring managers are busy. So just be patient and know that they will get back to you. It just may not be in your time frame, but they will definitely get back to you. All right, Coach, I'm ready to turn it over to you for the question.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Can you hear me okay, Yolanda?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. So much good information there. And a lot of it I found myself. I think there's a lot of young people watching right now that think some of this doesn't affect them. This affects everybody, because I've been a professional for several years. And a lot of this stuff I'm going to use starting today. I think the thing I want to start with, the first question is checking back in. Because I'm working on a project right now and I'm trying to recruit this agent to represent me, and he didn't get back to me in like 8 days. And knowing what you just talked about, I didn't panic. I sent him a second note, and he goes, "Oh man, my kid's been sick for the last 4 days. I've been out of it, but let's talk tomorrow." And I think that's a perfect example of what you're talking about. Don't assume that people are ignoring you. Also, don't assume that they don't have a lot of stuff going on as well.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And I tell individuals who connect with me, I'll say, send me an email in a week and remind me, because our email boxes are full and things quickly get to the bottom. So don't feel like you're being a pest. Just saying, hey, sending a friendly reminder. Didn't want you to forget about me. It's totally okay.
Fantastic. All right, our first question from Xavier Wiggins. Thank you, Xavier. Yolanda, how do you quantify the results of an action that you took?
You actually look at where did you start and where did you end. So easily, if you started, for me in HR, a big thing is turnover. So I can easily quantify that to say where it was and where it is now at a point in time. So you want to think about when you're setting up a project or working on something, put in some measurables that you can actually quantify at the end of that project.
Great advice. All right, next question from Langston Frazier, University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. Hi, Langston. How do you set yourself apart with everyone, especially young people, being involved in that digital social media space like a LinkedIn or Twitter or even Instagram?
So you want to make sure that, one, you're being authentic. You want to bring yourself to any situation or even in your profile. Don't put things in your profile that are not true. Another thing that I tell individuals to be relevant. So again, being active on LinkedIn, that will set you apart. I will tell you, recruiters and hiring managers, the first thing that they do after they get a resume is go to LinkedIn. So they'll look to see how active you are and what you're doing. That will set you apart from someone who may not even have a LinkedIn profile.
I think it's also important to be creative, especially right now when we're at home and we're forced to be at home, and you've got all the time in the world to come up with something other than, hey, I've got to be on this airplane, or I got to be at work by 8 o'clock. Right now we're at home. So be creative on what you put on LinkedIn. And if you feel a little bit silly, that's being uncomfortable. And I think that's okay. I think that's okay.
It is totally okay. I think Frida said that it's okay to be uncomfortable right now. So be comfortable with being.
There you go. Hey, we're putting it all together right there. All right, next question for you. Cornelius Simmons, Johnson C. Smith University, sports management major. Is it unrealistic for an older graduate looking to pivot in their 40s or 50s to seek an internship, or should the focus be employment-only mentality?
And I would say typically internships are set aside for college graduates, but there are some companies who may have some type of temporary work, which can be considered as an internship. So it's not uncommon for an older worker or a more seasoned worker to do an internship, but there are few and far between because internships are totally, most cases, set aside for college graduates or upcoming college graduates. So if you're looking for full-time employment, that's an opportunity to look for if they have some temporary work and something that you're looking to do to get into that organization.
Or I like to call it the hustle mentality too. And I just gave somebody this advice literally less than a week ago. Don't quit your full-time job if you're already working. And if you want to be over here, there's a lot of employers that if you do the work and say, listen, I'll work for you for free. I'll do whatever you need for free because you're already working over here. If you truly want to pivot, to me, putting in that extra effort is worth it, especially if somebody says, you're going to work for free, come here. And then that to me is as impactful as an internship because you don't need the college credits or you don't need it to graduate.
Exactly. And it's also an opportunity. So when you say work for free, you can do volunteer events as well.
Absolutely.
That's a great way to do a pivot is if companies are out doing different things, so join in and give up your time.
Fantastic. Next question. Nicholas Herman, St. Louis University, Midwest. What kind of extracurriculars should students be involved in to help them gain experience and to set them apart from other candidates?
Get involved in campus activities, campus organizations, be out in the community. So that employers see that you are well-rounded. A lot of you all on the call are golfers. So how are you doing other things other than being a student and a golfer? Are you volunteering? Tutor, go to a local middle school, elementary and do some tutoring. Right now, with everything being virtual, parents are looking for tutors. Even schools are looking for tutors. I'm married to a high school teacher, and he was just talking to a parent yesterday, and he was volunteering one of his friends to be a tutor because they're actually looking to get into education from the corporate world.
We have great young people watching from all over the country. We've heard from DC already, Maryland, now Colorado. Braden Kelly, what are some tips for starting out with your LinkedIn profile?
First tip is set it up. So that's the first step, is just to set it up. And then LinkedIn is great because it guides you through how to set it up. It takes you to section. Another thing is look at other profiles. It's okay to pull something from someone else's profile as long as it applies to you and it's accurate, and pull from there and put into your profile. So I would say LinkedIn is one of the easiest systems to use because it does guide you through that process. So the first thing is to get it set up and then just follow the template.
Keyword is on accurate, because I always tell young professionals, knowledge is power. And if you go to an employer and you say, I know about this, and you don't, you're going to be exposed very, very quickly. And that's something that you don't want, because that follows you around. You want to be authentic, and you want to go in the lane that you're an expert in or that you have knowledge in, per se.
Exactly. And I will tell you that 6 degrees of separation is more like 3. So if you say something on your resume and you go into an interview and it's not accurate, trust me that someone else outside of that organization probably will learn about it as well, because recruiters do call each other and talk about candidates, and hiring managers talk to other people in other organizations as well. So make sure that you're being accurate and authentic.
This next question, it's affected me, and it's affecting literally millions of people across the country. Greg Teal says, I accepted a job offer in November of 2019, so about 7 months ago, to start in July. With COVID-19, the program's now being reviewed, hasn't been canceled yet. How do I go about communicating with the company to verify my job security?
So whoever extended that offer to you, reach back out to them and just touch base. Because yes, a lot of companies are reviewing their current offers. And I will tell you, in talking to my network of HR folks, companies are really staying committed to their offers that they've extended prior to COVID, but you do need to stay in touch and just make sure that everything is kosher and you'll be ready to start in July.
That's exactly right. And in some instances, depending on what, and we're focused a lot today on the golf business. The golf business does events, and you talk about going out and helping and volunteering and connecting that way. Also understand where the events are being held now, because particularly in golf, so many events have been moved around, not necessarily canceled, that it's really smart to understand the new landscape, right, Yolanda, instead of just assuming everything is the same.
Exactly. And a lot of things, because companies are having to set up things virtually, so they may not be out there active, involved, or you may not know the status because they're still trying to figure out the status for them, because they sent their employees home and now they're trying to bring them back. So I would just say, again, just stay in touch and stay visible so that they don't forget about you.
All right. Before we let you get out of here and we move on to the third one, I want to bring Frida back in, because you guys work together, and kind of get your final thoughts on your final messages to the hundreds of young people watching today who have taken so much from your first 2 sessions. Frida, are you there?
I'm here.
Can you kind of, I know you've been listening to Yolanda for the last 15 or 20 minutes or so far. What's kind of your final thoughts as we move on? But everything you're talking about is so important.
No, I always love to hear Yolanda give this presentation, because it is about being action-oriented. This notion that you and I kind of started talking about earlier, Coach, about confidence, powered with what Yolanda brought up about being putting some action, right? You got to take the first step. I think those are really important right now. It is easy to get lulled into this sense of, well, I've got time. We'll be in this space for a while. This is the perfect time to take action. So I'm excited about you guys' futures and what's ahead for each of you.
Yolanda, you talked about really preparing and focusing as far as getting dressed and getting in the right headspace. Frida, I would ask you, last question for you. why it's so important. People are going, well, why can't I just be in my shorts? And to me, you've got to be in the right headspace if you want to be at your best. Am I right, ladies?
Absolutely. I mean, full disclosure, right? I put on a blazer today so I could get in full mode for you guys, right? Because something about, the way you dress makes you feel empowered. And as much and as comfortable as workout gear is, it does not make you feel empowered and professional when you're sitting around, okay? And so if you want to project professionalism, if you want to project that you're going to be the candidate of choice for them, you got to dress for the job you want. And that includes doing that virtually.
And I would add, what Frida just said, dress for the job you want. Don't dress for the job that you have.
That's right.
So always dress for the job that you want.
Dress for the job you want.
Especially if the job you have is playing Xbox at night after you've done your homework and you're still in school. That's reality right now of some.
Exactly.
All right, ladies, I've learned so much, and thank you for taking the time. Thank you to AIG for taking the time. And everybody, look them up on LinkedIn. Again, Frida, you want to give us your LinkedIn before you say goodbye?
Frida Lee.
And mine is Yolanda Crawford Uri. And please reach out, connect. Yes. Set up a team with whomever you want to speak with.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Frida. Thank you, Yolanda. You guys have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you to AIG for bringing them on today. And if you weren't taking notes, get your papers and pencils out. I just told my 9-year-old son yesterday, you can't remember everything. I've got a full page of notes right here, and I'm the host, right? So you got to write stuff down so you can remember it, and then you can put it into action, as Frida just alluded to. So thank you to them. Now, don't forget, still to come, we're going to have Suzy Whaley, the president of the PGA of America. She'll be on here live. Also, 2 more sessions that you do not want to miss. Career readiness, when you go out and take that action. Are you really ready? Are you prepared? How do you get prepared? We're going to hit on that. A panel of 4 for that discussion. And then the last session, after a small lunch break, personal branding, which arguably is the most important because that's what you're putting out there. That is still to come. PGA WORKS is truly in this to educate, to help empower, and bring diversity and inclusion to this wonderful world and business that we call golf.
I get this question a lot. What would you be doing if you weren't in golf? I just couldn't imagine a life without golf.
Representation matters a lot because when you see somebody that looks like you, it makes you feel like you can do it.
PGA WORKS is on a mission to ensure that the golf workforce looks more like America. This mission is a dream with a plan. Through fellowships, college scholarships, career exploration events, and championship golf, PGA WORKS is inspiring talent from diverse backgrounds to pursue careers throughout the golf industry.
This opportunity means a bridge for you to achieve your dreams.
Sophia is one of a dozen college graduates whose career was set in motion thanks to the PGA WORKS Fellowship.
I am kind of living my dream. I've learned about course rating. I've learned about golf management. I've learned about championship setting.
For the first year of their career, fellows are placed in paid positions at PGA sections across the country with a focus on foundation operations, gaining experience, making contacts, and learning the inner workings behind world-class tournaments and culture-shifting programs.
She's actually been able to fit right into almost a management level. And I think she's really grabbing onto the opportunity that she has right in front of her.
For young PGA members in the making, PGA WORKS grants scholarships to students of various cultures seeking degrees at golf management universities.
Any college kid knows college is not the cheapest thing to be doing in life.
$8,000. That will mostly cover my senior year of college, and I'm pretty thankful for that.
With a little financial support, future industry leaders like Young and Brandon can achieve their dreams, becoming the next generation of PGA professionals.
It's just such a wide variety of knowledge that we get from the program. Golf club fitting, golf cart fleet management, the golf operations, teaching.
I wouldn't be here without this program. It's opened up way more doors than I've ever expected.
What I like to do is diversify the game. This is why it's so significant to have that PGA professional on our sleeve, on our bags. It shows who we are, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Each year at the PGA Championship, students of diverse ethnicities are invited to the PGA WORKS event, Beyond the Green.
Well, I started playing golf since I was 6 years old, so I really want to stay in the golf industry. I'm applying for some jobs.
Across these grounds, interested students like Alejandra personally connect with seasoned professionals, chat with employers, and learn firsthand where their interest can take them.
My experience in the Beyond the Green event, it was amazing. Listening to people speak different backgrounds, different cultures, to learn how to build your career, how to trust yourself.
Attendees also get a look behind the curtain at PGA Championship operations.
The media tent is like huge. My dream job is in events management. Without this event, I wouldn't realize how long it takes to plan an event. It was very inspiring for everyone that was here.
The most culturally significant tournament in college golf. This is the PGA WORKS Collegiate Championship.
The field is very diverse. They say this is the most diverse championship there is. And when I come to something like this, I have the opportunity to show off my skills.
The nation's top minority golfers are invited to compete. But also invited are the industry's top employers. At the PGA WORKS Career Expo, tournament players learn all the other ways to make a living in golf, beyond just winning on Sundays.
It's more than just 54 holes of golf. There's a lot more that you can accomplish.
The Expo offered me an opportunity last summer to work at the 2018 U.S. Open Championship. The same people are going to connect me to a new job this upcoming summer.
Through tailored programming, PGA WORKS is changing the face of the golf industry. As the workforce evolves to better mirror America, so too will the faces of those who play this great game.
I don't think golf is a one-person sport or a one-race sport. I think that this beautiful game has so much to offer to everyone.
I would not have met some of the nicest people in my life without this program. I would not have been to some of the coolest places in the country without this program.
The PGA WORKS, they give the athletes, all the golfers, the opportunity to become something that they might have never known they would become.
Golf is blind to race, religion, gender. The golf ball doesn't see that at all. PGA WORKS is continuing what golf is already doing for people. It's changing lives.
Okay, welcome back to our first ever virtual PGA WORKS Career Workshop. 2 sessions in the bank, and it's going really, really well so far. A lot of good questions coming in, so thank you all for signing up, joining us here. I'm your host, moderator, Jonathan Coachman, the coach from Golf Channel, WWE, the newest ambassador for PGA WORKS with Paul Millsap, NBA star. By the way, we'll have an Instagram live later today, 3 Eastern, with Paul on the PGA WORKS page and discuss everything golf, everything PGA WORKS, and why it matters to us. Speaking of PGA Works, we're going to bring in now the two people that, in my opinion, have been pushing this whole thing forward. They're amazing people to work with. Scooter Clark, who's a PGA Works Collegiate Championship manager, and then Rachel McGee, who's also a PGA Works specialist as well. So congratulations for pulling this off in such a short amount of time. What have you made of this so far? And Rachel, I'm going to start with you.
Well, this is uncharted territories for us for sure. This is our first time doing this, but listen, COVID-19 has presented us with some unprecedented times. So we're just really happy to be able to present such an amazing group of people to really tell a great story and give great advice, because it doesn't stop. Like the world is still going and the market is going to open back up. And we want to make sure that we're really just presenting some really solid advice and setting up, these young kids for success when the market does open up. So super excited. And Jonathan, or Coach, I know I get yelled at for not calling you Coach, because we're family now. We're so thrilled and so excited to have you not only moderate this panel today and this workshop today, but be one of our ambassadors and join Paul Millsap to really tell the story. It's simple as that. We are trying to create a movement, and along with my partner in crime, Scooter, I really feel like we can do this. And having you on board is just super exciting. So thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate it, and it really is. And it's cliche, and it sounds silly, but I believe in it. And I actually just got these masks that I wear that say we're in this together. And David Allen Clothing sent me those. And we truly are. We've never been through this before. And Scooter, I'm going to bring you in now. And you and I met last year when I was helping you with the Collegiate Championship, which has become such an important part of what the PGA Reach does, PGA of America does. And I saw firsthand how hungry these young golfers, students from a diverse background were to learn and to be sponges. What have you taken so far working so closely, Scooter, with these young people that truly want to make the golf business their business for life?
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's about tapping into their passion. So they've got, I say this to our student athletes all the time when they come to me and say, I don't have any experience in the industry. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You've got, easily 4 years of on-the-job training as a student athlete, let alone, whatever number of years you've played the game before coming into a collegiate atmosphere. So I think it is tapping into their passion, getting them to understand the experience that they've gained just within the college years alone and the experiences that they have as student athletes. So again, they're hugely passionate. We're able to take this platform and with, again, as Rachel said, with COVID-19, we had to make a pivot, and we were able to turn this into an opportunity to really create the awareness that we really want to do with PGA Works and our different programs.
I think PGA Works, it essentially in 20 years, we're going to be booming. Right now, kind of almost like a baby. It's an infant, right? We're just starting. And when you look at it, it's probably more important than it could ever be, because this is a vehicle, an opportunity to connect, right? Because they're getting to see somebody like you or Rachel or the panelists we still have coming up and say they're already in the industry, and I can connect by watching them, listening, then reaching out. And I think it's great for them to see that there's not 8 walls between them, school, and getting to where you are or Rachel is.
You give us so much credit, Coach. Thank you for that. Well, was it that you said earlier? You need people to boost you up. You're our cheerleader right now.
That's what I do.
So one thing to add to what
go ahead.
It was one thing to add to what Scooter was saying is I think it's important too, and Scooter and I always talk about this, that we have to be very grassroots, and Scooter, don't laugh, we have to be very intentional about sort of our efforts because it's about the awareness. I think while most view golf as a sport, which it ultimately is, golf is a business. And at that, it's almost an $84 billion business. So we do a lot on our end to really talk about that side of the house, that business. The PGA of America and our 29,000 professionals are experts in the business of golf. So let's talk about what those verticals are. And it's not just to be a PGA professional. You can work in marketing. I mean, who do you think? Even science majors. Sometimes the aha moment goes off when Scooter and I talk to a lot of students, and they come from a science background, and they're like, "Well, where do I fit in golf?" And I'm like, "Well, who do you think's making the resin in the golf balls, or the technology in the shot?" You know, there's so much that the light bulb just kind of goes off. To let them know that we ultimately are a business, and we welcome and invite you into our business, and you know, hopefully into our sport.
Yeah, and I actually go ahead, and I actually do an exercise with some of the students where I'll say, let's take any major course of study, and I guarantee you I can tie it into a career within the golf industry. And I think the only thing I've come up with to maybe not tie it back is something in law enforcement, but it pretty much any course of study that they're going to go through in college, you can pretty much tie it back to the golf industry. So it's creating that aha moment and getting students and student athletes to understand that, you know, it might not seem like it's right in front of them, but you know, if you open your eyes, it is. So
I think you both just hit a nail on the head. And I think that's why I love being a part of the world of golf so much, but then also my other interests can cross brand into the world of golf. And I think it's important for young people to understand that when you look at whatever it is as a total, as an entity, then you break it down. So to your point, it may not even be in the golf company. It may be a company that works with a golf company that has a person that says, you know what, you're going to go work with the PGA of America or PGA WORKS on this particular project. So you really have to not only think outside the box, but think there could be companies that either advertise with, partner with, whatever it is. There's so many different ways to be a part of the golf business without directly being at a golf event or being at the Golf Channel, for instance. Solid. I knew that was going to really stump you guys and was going to leave you speechless.
Yeah,
as we move forward, and coming up in a little bit, I think she just actually joined, so if she wants to jump in. PGA President Suzy Whaley is going to join us. One of the top 100 teachers in 2019. Suzy, you there? Don't know if she's quite ready yet, but she will be joining us in a couple of minutes. When you look at when you look, Scooter and Rachel, at the landscape now as we move forward and the way that you have to pivot, the way that the business has gone virtual and all the things that we're talking about today, what do you think is the most important thing for a student right now that is heading into this unprecedented time? What's the first thought do you think they should have when they're heading into this?
Scooter, I don't know if you want me to start.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say being patient, you know, being patient, truthfully, that is the biggest thing, is just being patient, and then use your time wisely. Like, I mean, heck, we're here in the house, and I'm, you know, I guess over the past, 2 months it's just really trying to use your time wisely and really create a schedule and try and stick to that schedule so that you do have some discipline in your life. And I think with that, you can start looking at building out your goals and your objectives and really kind of planning out your future, because as we said, we are going to get through this time, and you want to make sure that you're prepared. So you're not spending an extra 3 or 4 months behind this trying to get prepared for a career opportunity. So it should be patient, use your time wisely, you know, not to sit around on the sofa and binge watch Netflix and Hulu as it is easy to do.
Yeah, it is.
You know, but just use your time wisely. So, and again, the power of networking, you know, don't isolate. Get on LinkedIn, and I'm definitely not the one that's on social media, but definitely, as you guys know, but definitely get on social media and start to build your network. And then the last piece of this, I would say, is really understand the power of mentors. You know, find out who can be your career coach and reach out to those individuals and start to develop that relationship. And that's going to help you, again, build your network and your resources as far as finding a job.
And that never stops, Coach. I mean, I'm not going to give away my age, but, you know, I feel like I've been working a good while. I've been in the industry about 15 years, and I'm still building my network. I'm still asking for people to be mentors of mine. It's a constant learning process. There's nothing wrong with that. Just because one of my mentors actually did tell me that just because you have a good set doesn't mean you can't build it even more, because you just never know who's going to be able to introduce you or give you really good nuggets of information. Like our president right here. I mean, I look up to her every day to what she does and represents as a female golfer and a woman of color at that. I didn't know it could happen. I mean, I'm just here to be honest with you. I didn't know it could happen. And she is just a representation of it. Her and my other mentor, Sandy Cross, just drive me to excellence. And, I think that to students that I'm now blessed to mentor, I can't stress that enough, that it never ends. It just never stop doing that.
You just said something. You said, I didn't think it could happen. Last night I'm not going to say her name, but I had a young competitor, a player, reach out to me, DM me on Instagram, and said, Coach, I'm kind of done playing, and I'm really thinking about staying in the golf industry. I don't know how to do it. I don't know what to do. And I told her, we have a workshop tomorrow, so tune in. But then also, I'll work with you after we're done, because I do have a great affection for her as a human being. She's a wonderful person, a great player. But now she's done, wants to move into the world of golf. For an athlete or somebody who's already in the world of golf that wants to get into the business side, what do you think their first move should be?
Again, explore the options. I think Scooter and I can't stress enough that exploring the options, or even what Frida and Yolanda said earlier, get out of your comfort zone a little bit too. There is something definitely to be said about exploring the different verticals within our own sport, within our own business, to have those kind of aha moments that, yes, I belong. And I know what we preach every day is that there is representation within our workforce. It's just a matter of really talking about it more, and again, being intentional with those grassroots efforts, because we can talk about it, and that's great, and we do an excellent job doing that, but we are also making sure that we're showcasing those success stories and those that are representing in our industry. And then again, bringing on people like you, Coach and Paul, to echo that messaging even further. It's storytelling, and that I think resonates, and it's relevant to audiences that we are absolutely trying to target and educate and drive the awareness of what this industry can offer and invite them in.
That's a great point. I think we'll end it right there. Rachel, we're going to bring you back a little bit later on. Yeah. Scooter, thank you for coming on for a couple of minutes. We appreciate you as well. Because I saw her come up, and so I know she's ready. And so our next session, there she is, always with a smile on her face, our fearless leader, the PGA of America president, top 100 teachers in America in 2019, fresh off of a lesson, Suzy Whaley. Good afternoon. How are you?
Coach, I appreciated the 5-minute breather as I sweat to death. I'm in Florida for everybody that's watching, and just got off my 95-degree lesson tee with my 110-degree mask.
Oh, gosh.
So I apologize, because I would have loved to get dressed up for all of you, but it's not going to happen today. Not happening. So here we are, and I'm excited to be here. I didn't get to see the beginnings of everything. I hope I don't get too repetitive, but thanks for having me.
Awesome. We're also going to bring in with you Yarmon Kennedy, dynamic leader, Vice President, Planning and Analysis for AIG Retirement Services. So Yarmon, good morning to you as well. Hello.
Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Man, we're great. We're having a good time. A lot of great questions are coming in. I will remind people, send the questions for Yarmon and Suzy right now. They'll be on for the next 10 or 15 minutes. If you don't have a Google account, go to Instagram, leave us a DM, include your school, and let us know where you're sending your question. Suzy, I want to start with you, because we've just been talking about personal journeys, and we've been talking about diversity in the golf workplace. And you're a perfect example of that. Kind of tell us how golf has affected your personal journey to this point.
Yeah, well, first of all, shout out to Yarmon. Hi, Yarmon. Great to be on with you. Good to see you, albeit virtually, but good to see you. I'm glad to see you healthy and well. But my journey in golf probably is different than everybody's story. I started playing the game at the age of 9. People are surprised to hear that my mother started me playing the game of golf, which typically then, and as Rachel said, she's not going to give away her age. You can just Instagram mine or look it up. So you know how old I am. But at that point in time, girls really weren't introduced to golf that much. And if they were introduced by their dads or by an uncle or a male. And my mom loved the game. And so I got lucky. I had this incredibly supportive family. I was a huge athlete. But as I traveled through golf, I was playing multiple sports, ended up on a golf scholarship at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and really thought that would be the end of my golf career as far as competitive went. I thought I would just play golf for the rest of my life and love it. And instead of going to law school, which I was on my way to do, I was approached after 2 tour events that summer playing as an amateur to be sponsored to go to tour school, which is how you get the right to play on the LPGA Tour. I went home and told my parents that instead I was going to do an about face. Instead of going to law school, I was going to go to tour school. And I'm here to tell you that was like the best decision of my life. But, again, I had this incredible mom who looked at me and she said, you can always be a lawyer. Give it a go. Take a risk and give it a go. And it was the best decision I ever made. Just to be honest, I made a grand total of 3 cuts in my first year on the LPGA Tour. $2,400 for the entire year. I spent $62,000. Do the math, all of you are smart. Yeah. And got fired. Like when you get fired from the tour, it means you lost your card. So people say, "Oh, I lost my card." Translation: fired. And at the time, I thought, well, gosh, this is the end of my life. This is the end of the world. This is all I ever wanted. I don't know what I want to do now. I mean, it was just a little pathetic, the dramaticness of it all, but it was the best thing that could ever happen to me. I worked my tail off. I relied on my athleticism instead of my work ethic that first year. Everybody was a great athlete when I got out there, so that wasn't going to be enough. And my failure actually propelled me to a career that I could never give back as much as it's given to me. So my journey was not linear at all. I've been all over the place. I've been a tour player. I've been an ESPN commentator. I've been a head golf professional. I've been an assistant golf professional, a teacher, a coach. I think my favorite role in all of that is as a coach. And I really have a huge passion for that, but it was never one thing. And I seem to be attracted to enormous challenges. So the gender issue for me, it was more about my body of work, and I've always been about my body of work. And I would ask all of you to understand that inherently. Your body of work is what represents you and your character, your integrity, the way you treat people, your kindness and your heart. Try to get away from labeling yourself, because oftentimes I found there were moments in time that I was thinking people were labeling me. It was really just me labeling me. So for me, it's always been a good philosophy and one that I'm not here to say has been easy, but I think that made it a little more fun.
Absolutely. Hard work. I tell my kids all the time, hard work is fun, and you should sweat. You should sweat a little bit. Yarmon, let's bring you into the conversation right now. And Suzy's story, as she just said, is her own. It's what she has been through. What does your personal journey through business with golf attached to it look like?
Yeah, so first, Coach, I actually was introduced to golf or started playing golf later on in my career, probably around the age of 25 and 20 or 26. And what I found was first that it was an outlet, because, as you get out of college, you join the workforce and things of that nature, kind of grinding, right? You're on this grind to do better, to ascend. And, in the midst of hustle and bustle, you kind of lose perspective. And what I found was that golf gave me an outlet to actually just decompress, refocus on the things in life, spend time with friends, and spend time with myself, whether it was at the range, right, or playing 4 hours with 3 of my good buddies. And so it's really important, for college students these days, because we're so engaged with everything through our mobile phone, through social media, and you need some time to yourself to disconnect. Mm-hmm. And you're absolutely right. And refocus. So golf has provided that to me. I have a 8 and 4-year-old, or soon to be 5-year-old. So my golfing time has been somewhat cut short, but But at the end of the day, I think through any medium or avenue, find time to yourself, like Frida said, in terms of getting better and gaining newfound perspective, is always advantageous to you for the long term. And thinking about my own kind of career journey, so I actually posted on the YouTube live stream to see if there were any Hampton University students out there. I got no responses, so I'm still waiting for that. But I started at Hampton University, and I was very fortunate early on, like Frida said, to take advantage of my career center. They offered me the opportunity to actually join GE on a leadership development program. After that, I actually attended Tulane University in New Orleans, where I earned my master's degree. And I've been at AIG ever since after graduating from Tulane. And I can tell you that AIG has been fantastic to me in offering these types of opportunities to re-engage with the community in which we serve. So thank you, Suzy and Coach, for having me here, and the rest of the PGA staff.
Wow, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Suzy, I'm going to bring you back in. And we've got a question from Black Girls Golf Account. Address how golf, if you can, Suzy, can be accessible as a career path for those that haven't really been exposed to it.
Yeah, so great question. And I think that is tricky. You know, at the PGA of America, you know, with Rachel's help and Lynette Carty, we are desperately trying to obviously look more like the communities we serve. And we believe wholeheartedly that starts really at a very young age. And if we can get young girls playing the game, young boys playing the game, no matter where they're from or what their cultural background is, then we have an opportunity to have them in the game for a lifetime. So we started with PGA Junior League, which is a program that we have. So that's for youth. 80% of those playing PGA Junior League parents label them as developmental or new to the game. So that's exciting. And what that is team golf, where they have a partner, they wear a jersey with numbers on the back, their names are on the back. They don't have to hit every shot. They can be brand new to the game, and they can end up playing with a junior that's 13 or under that maybe has played the game a little experience, or maybe with somebody who hasn't at all. In social distancing world, no, but typically are high-fiving on the good shots, laughing on the bad shots. They have a PGA professional with them. And what we're finding is in those numbers, we have increased not only the diversity dramatically with children of color, but also in gender. So we're gaining on it. Of course, we want to get to a very high percentage. I would love to have 50% girls and 50% boys. I think we're at about don't quote me on the exact numbers, but we're about 33% girls right now. And the cool part of this is we're about 25% of children from a diverse background, which, you know, for the game of golf, it's not something to stand up and do a standing ovation for, because we need to be way better than that. And we will continue to work on that. But for golf, that's really encouraging. And we're incredibly hopeful with PGA Junior League that we're going to get more children into the game. Of course, the first tee is an opportunity for children, but that's depending on if you have a first tee near your home or near your community, and that you have the opportunity to travel to that. And then there's LPGA Girls Golf that PGA professionals are participating in, which is girls group golf programs that we invite any young girl to be a part of, to come join us. We offer people who don't have clubs. We have the clubs for them. We offer the instruction. LPGA Girls Golf is extremely inexpensive, but I'm careful when I say that, because really, obviously, at this hard time for many people, any kind of fee is challenging. But all of those that I just mentioned have scholarship programs. The All Sports Matter from Dick's Sporting Goods helps us with PGA Junior League, as does Steph Curry's foundation, which, you know, we're thrilled that we gave out over 2,000 scholarships for children to participate and play in that last year. LPGA Girls Golf has a scholarship program. The First Tee has scholarship programs. So we're working really hard. And then there's Youth on Course as well. So, you know, we're trying to take the intentional steps that Rachel was speaking about before. Instead of just talking about this, we're making an impact and we're making a difference, but we have a long way to go. And finally, the PGA of America is working really on a model prior to COVID, where we're looking at municipalities and being able to raise funding for courses that we're going to close in these sectors of these communities that desperately need a place for children to play and to be. So we're looking still to continue that, to raise money to help these municipalities keep them as golf courses and safe spaces and responsible spaces for children within that community. So we're working on it, but, check out all those programs, and hopefully you'll be able to, whomever, if you have a sister or a sibling or even a brother who needs to get involved, we'd love to have them involved.
And we told everybody when the workshop started, you better have your pad of paper out, because she gave you tons of information right there. There's no way you can remember it unless you write it down. So write it down, write it down. Yarmon, on the flip side of that, you and I are two black men. We love the game of golf. We're diverse, but there aren't a ton. As Suzy just said, it doesn't always look like what it looks like in the municipalities, in the cities, where we really come from. As a black man who loves the golf business and would love more like us to get into, what do you think a young black professional man, or any minority for that matter, should be thinking about as they try to get into the golf business that, quite frankly, doesn't have a lot yet, but needs to?
Yeah, great question. So when you think about golf, and actually I'll go back to Frida's presentations, there's many different ways to approach it, right? And so from a professional career standpoint, it's a great opportunity to network and develop really meaningful relationships. And so when you think about, what your ultimate goal is and outcome, use these things that are being positioned in front of you as a way of achieving that ultimate outcome. And then golf, what's really cool, and I think I heard you say that Paul Millsap is involved. And what you see is this evolution of, athletes, whether from the NBA or the NFL, really taking hold of golf. Because quite frankly, it's one of those sports where it requires you to think, it requires you to concentrate, it requires you to execute under pressure. And so a lot of those things carry over to other pursuits, right? And quite frankly, I call it the hardest game in the world, bar none. And thank you to people like Suzy who remain patient with us hackers. But at the end of the day, it's one of those sports where I think that the appeal is spending time with others, getting to know people in a more intimate fashion, thinking about taking your relationships from more from transactional to more relational, right? Mm-hmm. And golf provides all of that in the setting of being in nature. Not being a part of the grind, like I said earlier. And so when you package all those things together, you actually have a really compelling value proposition that I think will appeal across a broad swath of America. And it's really all about exposure, right? And so, Tiger was very helpful to exposing the game to minorities, but we have to go further. We have to go further than that and start, reaching back, focusing on those 12-year-olds today or those 15-year-olds today who show potential, to get them into the stream that will help them kind of matriculate to the next level of golf.
Awesome. Suzy, let's go back to you. We got a question from Cornelius Simmons, Johnson C. Smith University, sports management major. He wants to know, what advice and direction would you give individuals who like to work behind the scenes in the PGA, things like marketing, event planning, sales, event security, risk management, etc.?
Yeah, apply. I would tell you to apply. We have a whole championships department, but I can tell you within the game of golf, and Coach, you alluded to it earlier, and so did Rachel, there's just so many places you can have your hand in the game without necessarily being on tour or being a coach or a teacher of the game or being at a golf facility. So our championships department, most of you probably are aware, but maybe you're not. We own and operate the Ryder Cup along with Ryder Cup Europe, the PGA Championship that we're hosting here at TPC Harding Park coming up. We have the KPMG Women's PGA Championship. We have the KitchenAid Senior PGA Championship. So while we're a 29,000 member organization, we own some of the largest championships in the world in the game of golf, one of which is a major. And so for you as a sports management major, I could tell you there's also ultimate opportunity with many of the allied associations. You have the United States Golf Association, you have the PGA Tour, the LPGA Tour, all the mini tours. You have the American Junior Golf Association, which runs hundreds of events across the country in event planning. And of course, you have corporations that, obviously right now during COVID aren't doing large gatherings. But so many corporations use the game of golf to participate at these championships where they need event planning and coordination. So remember, it's not just necessarily tour events that you can be a part of. Local country clubs have close to 200 events a year that could be right in your backyard. And you just have to do a little bit of research, contact your local. We have 41 PGA sections around the country. You can contact them and find out how to actually search out the job opportunities within those sections. The LPGA has opportunities around the world globally, and the PGA of America has opportunities around the world globally. But you have to take that first step. You have to actually do some homework. Yeah. You have to understand what that business is all about and what their mission is and what their strategic goals are. And then you have to apply. And, what I find is a lot of people talk about it and they see it, but they never reach out to grab it. And it's an unbelievable opportunity for all of you to get in our industry and to get in our game as we really strive to have a diverse workforce.
I call it embracing the hustle, because so many want to say, well, I'm already working 8 hours over here. I can't possibly do 2 or 3 more hours in the world of golf or in an industry that I really want to be in. And I feel like even if you're coming out of college, and Yarmon, I'll direct this to you, or whether you're already a young professional, but you have to embrace that hustle, because everything Suzy just said, you have to go the extra step, because if you just wait for it to happen to you, you're going to be waiting a really, really long time. Right, Yarmon?
That's right. And when you think about the people who, we all admire in the world, they always take that extra step, correct? And I'll tell you this, like one of the things that I think is really, analogous or runs a nice parallel to the game of golf is really the game of life. And when you think about golf, I believe it was Suzy or someone who told me this, that, the average golf swing is like 1 second. And so when you think about a 4-hour round, your score is based on 1 minute and 12 seconds worth of golf swings, right? And so when you think about life, the outcome of your life is going to be based on these pivotal moments where it's going to require you to concentrate, execute, and be committed to something. And that commitment may require you having to go above and beyond the circumstances or what's required. But, think about your life as you would a round of golf, that you only have a few swings in life to really make a difference and make an impact to get to the outcome that you want. And that's what it's going to take for each and every one of the listeners here today to achieve, their goals, dreams in life, that you're going to have to go above and beyond and be committed.
Let's bring it back to Suzy now. And we just got a couple of minutes left with you guys. I could go all afternoon. So one more question, and I've got a little rapid fire as well that I want to do. But Suzy, I want you to start, and then Yarmon quickly piggyback this. We talk all the time that 90% of business deals are done on the golf course, right? How do you think, Suzy, that the power of the invitation to come play golf, when you talk about taking the extra step, how important is that to put yourself in those situations?
Yeah, it's so important. And we've just seen it in real time at the PGA of America. We have the KPMG Women's PGA clinics, and we found that just posting that we're having these clinics was fine. But when we actually made an invitation, made the actual event look like an invitation, reached out to people and invited them by phone, really kind of searched our networks and said, gosh, I wonder if she'd like to join us. We all like to be invited to things, and it's no different within the game of golf and within business. And if you already play the game, make a commitment to invite when we can and with social distance responsibly, 3 people to join you. Even if they've never been a part of it, they can borrow a putter and ride around and see the beauty of the golf course, see the health and wellness they can get from it, and see that it's really fun, even if you're pretty bad at it, right? So I also think that you need to realize that if you haven't been invited, you need to speak up. And you need to say, hey, I'd like to join you. Because what I find in office spaces most often is if you don't play the game and you're a female, you opt out. If you don't play the game and you're a male and you get invited, typically you say yes. And so I'm going to give a shout out to all the women that are on this call. A lot of those men that are saying yes don't know how to play golf either, but they're taking the opportunity to be a part of that day with whatever employer or supervisor has invited them, or peer or cohort. And you need to do the same. Please come see a PGA professional, take one golf lesson so we can teach you a little bit about it. And next time, I really hope you'll say, yes, I would love to join you on the golf course.
Yarmon, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, great point, Suzy. I agree with all that. And really, bring people along, invite others to join you on the journey of golf. It's really important that, people get more exposure to this and all the benefits that it affords the individual and what it can do for you socially and mentally and everything else in between. So golf to me is the greatest game on earth. And, I consider golfers to be the best athletes in the world. They don't duck, they don't run through the end zone. But the amount of mental focus, skill, dedication, and commitment that they all bring to the game is astounding. So, invite people to the game, bring people to the course with you, look silly together. If you all are both batting the ball and hitting up grass and stuff, that's cool. The grass will grow back. It's all about creating.
Having fun. I don't do any project unless I'm having fun at it. That's kind of how I pick the projects I work on now. And it's okay, even though this is a very serious time and our anxiety and all this about the job market is very serious. It's okay to have fun because it's supposed to be fun. So learn how to have fun as you're going through this process. All right, before I let you get out of here, a little rapid fire. Give me 1-word answers, then a quick sentence on why you're giving that answer. All right, Suzy, your dream foursome.
My husband and my 2 daughters.
Self-explanatory. Good. Yarmon, shorts or slacks?
I live in Texas, so shorts.
Good point. Suzy, what course is your favorite course that you have played?
Oh, Cypress in Northern California. It's spectacularly beautiful.
It is gorgeous. I remember playing Pebble Beach for the first time. My tee time was at 6 a.m. I didn't see the course for the first 2 hours because of the fog.
Yeah.
And so the 10 holes I saw, they were awesome, but it was pretty close to Cypress there too. Yarmon, what's the favorite course you have played?
The favorite course I have played is probably the Mayakoba course at the Fairmont in Mexico.
Awesome. And what golf course is on your bucket list to play?
Well, if Suzy can get me on, all right, and I will need to change her foursome. It'll probably be the Grove 23 based on, the recent Jordan documentary. So that's Jordan's course out in Jupiter. So I would love to play that to see how it is. Grove 23.
Guaranteed it's going to be
I want to go with you, and I'm going to figure that out because I haven't played it either.
Let's make it happen.
Yarmon, I'm on it.
Let's make it happen.
He's a
we're gonna have to throw one of your daughters out
say
too,
yes.
Suzy, so I can get a spot.
Okay, all right, you're in, Coach.
All right, Suzy, your favorite vacation spot?
Costa de Campo.
Oh, I love the DR. Love the DR.
Dominican Republic.
Yes. Yarmon, place that you want to retire.
So, Coach, I'm going to give you 2 places. The first place is near and dear to me. This is my family property in East Texas, which is, about 125, 150 acres of just pure woods. And then the second is St. Lucia.
Like both of those. All right, both of you, Suzy, Yarmon, thank you for the time. Went a little bit over, but guess what? This is virtual. We can do whatever we want. So thank you. Have a great day.
That's right.
And give people your LinkedIn real quick before you get out of here.
Suzy Whaley. Suzy Whaley.
Suzy Whaley, easy fine. And Yarmon, what's yours?
Yarmon Kennedy.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Yarmon from AIG, Suzy Whaley, PGA of America president, top 100 teachers of 2019. Thank you both very, very much.
Coach, thank you for your support. Bye, Yarmon.
Later.
We're going to quickly pivot into our next panel because they are anxiously awaiting. And this next one is very, very, very important. Let's welcome our panelists now. Sandy Cross, Chief People Officer of the PGA of America. John Easterbrook, Chief Membership Officer at the PGA of America. Narissa Robinson, Diversity and Talent Manager for the PGA Tour. And somebody that Suzy knows very, very well, her husband, Bill Whaley, part of the power duo, the National Director for Golf for the PGA Tour. Welcome to you all. First, Bill, I'll start with you. How are you doing during this incredibly difficult time as the National Director of Golf?
Well, I think the comment is every day is Groundhog Day, right? So we are available all the time. You know, we're fortunate enough that we have properties in multiple states, so everybody's in a different situation due to regulations, things like that, trying to be supportive, trying to stay in touch with our teams. But on the flip side, we've been blessed because both our girls are home, so having family time for a couple months we don't normally have has been spectacular. And with my wife and I both off the road, we get to see each other. Otherwise, we usually see each other in an airport or someplace. So there's been pluses and minuses for sure, but we've been blessed because we're safe and all of our teams are safe.
Awesome. Bill, if you can hit your video button, please, so you can pop up and we can see that gorgeous face that you have. All right, this session is about personal career development, career readiness. Are you prepared to walk out of school into the job market? Or if you're already in the job market, are you ready to pivot, change, and evolve? So, Sandy, I want to start with you, if we could. With there being so much uncertainty with the current job market, less structure to the days, everything that Bill just talked about being Groundhog Day, classes being remote, campus events being canceled, what should students do to stay organized, on track, and progress towards their ultimate career goals?
Thanks, Coach. That's a great question. I love kicking things off with that. It's really important to create structure in your day, especially in this environment where, and Bill kind of said it, the days can quickly blur into the nights and the weekdays can blur into the weekends. So in some respects, it feels like time is standing still, but it also seems like it's racing by. Like, it's hard to believe that most of the country has been working remotely for 10 weeks or more. So structuring your day, I would say, is critically important. Select your favorite time management tool. It might be a simple Gmail calendar. It might be an app like Asana or Todoist. Maybe it's the Notes app in your phone or just plain old pen and paper. But it doesn't matter what you choose, but choose something and really make it a habit, like make it a ritual. And then, each morning or each evening, just kind of take a review of what's coming up for the next day and set your intention. What do you want to accomplish that day that's going to move your career forward? Pick 1, 2, 3 things, whatever it is, and just commit to get those done that day. It might be preparing your portfolio or refining your print and digital resumes, practicing responses to interview questions you might get, making sure you're actively connected to your network. You don't want to cold call someone and say, hey, can I use you as a reference or write a letter when they haven't heard from you in over a year. So some things like that, just really have structure in your day for the career readiness components, but also the physical and mental health and well-being is a very important part of your day as well, which I'm sure everybody's aware of. So structure and striking a balance.
It's a lot of good information there. Narissa, we're going to bring you into the conversation now. What are some of the takeaways for how students should prepare for career readiness right now from home and computers and maximize their career development?
Sure. So I would say 4 things are going to be key for this. So I would say research, reach out, revise, and rehearse. So the first two, Sandy already covered. Research your future career goals. How many years of experience are you going to need to eventually get where you want to go, and try to chart your path there. You want to be reaching out to folks who are already in the seats that you want to be sitting in one day. How did they get there? And be smart about it, like Sandy said, about how you reach out. You want to revise your resume. A lot of schools are going to be doing office hours virtually from their career services offices. So they can help you with your resume this summer. They can do practice questions with you and then rehearse. So practice your interview questions, practice your video setup, all that good stuff.
And we actually have Bill doing it right now. And so it's really cool that we're actually doing what we're talking about in real time. That's how thorough this workshop truly is. It really is. That was a joke that nobody got. Okay, good.
I was laughing, Coach, but I was on mute.
Thank you very much. So let's pivot now. And John, I want to direct this one to you. And then Sandy, you can piggyback this one if you could. How critical it is to look at which companies and organizations to apply to, first of all, and during these times, what are the key factors that should be considered in their job search?
Yeah. Hey, Coach. Good afternoon. Good morning, wherever everybody is. Thank you for having me. I think, right now, and Narissa said it, but nothing replaces networking, and there are people hiring. There are companies hiring. You think about the Amazons, the Oracles, UPS, the transportation companies. I think, many of us on this call are in the hospitality business or want a career in golf. And I will tell you, golf, and I listened to the tail end of the last seminar, golf's a great spot. And not to digress or not specifically answer the question, but the golf industry is looking for talented people. And the golf industry is poised because of the nature of the game, the social distancing aspect of the game, and the ability to be outside and play the game. We're going to see a resurgence in golf, and I believe, I feel, in talking to our hotel partners, that they'll be back in business, this fall. So, the service industry was obviously hit hardest. But I would say continue to network, be patient. A little bit on the lines of what Narissa said, to me, it's going to be a lot of really good job applicants flooding the market here in the next, 60 to 120 days. So spend this time, and Sandy touched on this a little bit, to determine your why, right? Why? This is really important. And as all of you go into your interview process, why is that company going to be better to hire you? What can you bring to the company as a new recruit? And I think, that's something that you need to do, however you or whomever you interview with. And again, I guess to answer your question specifically about, hiring and what's going on, again, as I said, the Amazon, the Oracles, and those folks are out there, but everybody's going to be looking for A players. So just network and communicate, be respectful, be persistent, but don't be a pest, would be my advice there.
And Coach, I would just follow on with that by saying, as you assess your job prospects, really look into the cultures at these companies. You may be starry-eyed about working for a particular brand, but when you peel back the layers, it might not be a cultural fit for you. Or maybe you really want to work remote, or you really want to work in a brick and mortar office. Figure out what's going on at those companies. Is it a cultural fit for you? Look at the Glassdoors, the LinkedIns, the commentary on the Indeeds, what employees are saying, what former employees are saying, and maybe even reach out to some of the team members and understand if it's going to be a cultural fit for you once you get there.
That's a great question. We have so many questions coming in right now for everybody. Bill, I'm going to go to you. Can you please discuss the importance of identifying mentors or leadership coaches and ways to connect with them virtually right now, but using what they teach you and take that in to your interviews in the job market?
Coach, thank you. I think it's, first of all, we've always had important people in our lives, and that's what got us, to school, through school. It could be professors and could be coaches you've played on sports teams. But, these folks provide for you some guidance, right? Maybe they provide a different perspective when you're looking at a job or an opportunity. Sometimes they're just somebody that'll listen to you and has a calming effect. But, I think you need to think about when you pick a mentor or a leadership coach, that you surround yourself, with mentors and positive coaches that provide three things. First, I think it's someone who really promotes you to others, who builds you up, supports you. Maybe they have contacts or trying to help you. Second, I think the mentor also provides support and motivation, energy, helps provide strategies in preparation for the interview. And lastly, and I think it's really important, I think you need to have a truth teller on your team, somebody that will call you out, hold you accountable, pushes you and says, you can do better than that. Let's go. Or stop your whining. You want this job. This is what we got to do. And I think those are the traits you want to find. And while you may have a coach that can provide all three of those, I think you need multiple people for perspective, people you can call and rehearse with. You've heard a couple comments from Marissa about practice and those types of things. It's important that you bring your A game every time you're ready. And so it's nothing better than to do it with your coach who's there to promote you and support you and hold you accountable and said, look, let's do that again. We can do better than that. And so when you go into these interviews, you feel confident. You've done your homework. You're ready.
It's a lot of great points. You never know. And I tell this all the time. I don't care if it's one person or a million. There could be somebody watching right now that may say, I want to connect to this person, whatever it is. You never know who's going to see you. You never know who's going to connect with you. So always, always, always bring your absolute A game, no matter where you're doing it at.
You're always doing.
Narissa, I want you to start on this one. If everybody could mute when you're not talking, if you could mute your thing, that'd be great. Narissa, you start, then John, you can piggyback here. It's very easy to get anxious right now. A lot of people very anxious, discouraged, bored, complacent. How do they deal with, Narissa, with those challenges of dealing with that, but also saying, I got to get myself out there?
Yeah, so I think Sandy kind of covered this earlier. So making your goals, your to-do list for yourself. So not making so many goals for the day that you drive yourself crazy and you have so many things back to back that you're just going nuts during this time, but really just chart out, what are my career goals and what are the steps that I can take to get there, so you can just go ahead and chip away at it. Maybe you make a list for yourself of, okay, today I'm going to reach out to 5 different people who might have some information about the career path that I'm trying to chart. Maybe the next day, that's your practice interview day, and you practice some interview questions. A lot of interviews are going to be video for a while, I'm thinking. So you want to go ahead and practice the STAR method. A lot of interview questions are behavioral style. So they'll say, tell me about a time when. So with the STAR method, that's situation, task, action, and result. So with situation, you tell them what happened, just give just enough context in 1 or 2 sentences. With task, you share what you were asked to do. Action was the game plan that you made for yourself to get it done. And then result is, what was the end result? How did your boss feel about it? What grade did you get on that project? So just practicing that STAR method can help you really be prepared when you do go back into a live interview situation.
John?
Sorry, I had to get off mute there. Yeah, I think each of the presenters have touched on this a little bit. I heard this from somebody, Coach, the other day, and I know, patience right now is hard, right? And it's something that we all need to practice. You're not going to get your perfect job. Don't settle right on your perfect job. As Narissa just said, step by step. You're taking your first step in your career, the first step on the stairwell. So it may not be the perfect job. You can, show some patience in this time. As Bill said, we're in a peak time. We're, as Bill said, blessed to be around family. It's just something that, you don't necessarily, this time you're not going to get back, right? And kids can spend time with their families. As someone who's worked for the past 35 years in the real world and being traveling like Bill and was talking about, he and Suzy, be thankful for the time. You've got 40 years ahead of you to work. You're going to get 2 weeks vacation, probably the first time you're out there. And so be a little bit patient, and again, I know that's hard. I mentioned that networking, networking plus resilience equals success. And again, you've got a long journey ahead. Try some different things. Make sure, as Sandy and Narissa said, make sure that what you're doing, it may not be the perfect job for you, but it might be with the perfect company culture. So maybe you take something different just to get yourself in the door. But don't be afraid to try things. And I guess the last thing is try like heck to stay. And again, I listened to the earlier call, but stay in your work of passion. Where you want to be, because it's ultimately going to pay off. And be flexible and just chip away at it.
I think we like to use examples as well. And when I look at my career, you already mentioned you may not get your career job right away. We can't be too proud right now in this market. If you're coming out of college and you have to work while you're preparing for your career job, when I was coming out of school and I wanted to be a sports anchor, I was offered a part-time gig on the weekends. That wasn't enough money. So what did I do? I worked at a halfway house from 7 to 3, and then I went and worked for free at night to learn how to edit, to learn how to anchor, to learn how to do all those things in my profession. So when I was offered a full-time job, I was prepared, worked for free and worked a part-time job. That may be what you have to do. And guess what? That's okay. Nobody's going to think less of you for doing that. In fact, they'll probably think more of you for doing what you need to do during this incredibly difficult time. Tons of questions coming in. I'm a rising senior volleyball player at University of Evansville. I'm very interested in getting into the event planning and marketing in the golf sector. I think, Narissa, you'd be great for this one. And then let's have Bill back that up.
Sure. So I think this market is a little bit challenging. There are different jurisdictions that are trying to figure out what they're doing. So having said all of that, the positions that are posted in the sports industry, you definitely want to go to teamworkonline.com. I've heard some people say like there are no jobs right now, but nobody's hiring except for Walmart and Amazon. That's not true. I went on to Teamwork earlier this week, and there are, I want to say, almost 1,000 jobs posted, and 70 of them were internship positions. Some of them are virtual. There are a lot of companies pivoting right now, as you said, Jonathan, and some of them are getting really creative with their positions. They know that at some point they're going to need people who've got the skills and the experience and are familiar with their companies. So there are positions open. Follow the companies that you're interested in on LinkedIn. Be one of the first people to know if they do start posting jobs again. And then a lot of these companies also have job alerts that you can sign up for. If they've got nothing posted, you could go ahead and add your email to their list. And then once they start posting again, they'll let you know.
Just as a follow-up, by the same token, like you touched on, a lot of places may be closed down right now or restricted. And you just have, and we've been using this word a lot, you have to be patient, but sometimes you have to be a little bit dogmatic. You have to stay in touch. You have to let, so you don't miss an opportunity. So keep an eye on it. Things could open up. I can tell you from our world, businesses are opening, constantly and changing. Sometimes it's a little bit open. Next thing you know, in 2 weeks, they're fully open. In some respects, all avenues. So please stay in touch, with the companies. Keep an eye on it. Literally check it daily, because it literally could be closed at 10 o'clock in the morning and open by noon. So it is a very fluid job market right now. And just be patient, because the people who want it the most will get the opportunities.
Hey, Coach,
go ahead, John.
I'm just going to add one quick thing is that, the traditional sports marketing or those type of jobs, think of some of the associations out there, the Allieds, the Junior Golf Associations, the PGA of America, the USGA, PGA Tour. There are other jobs, and this was in the earlier panel too, that they just think of the traditional golf professional role. So there's jobs in every asset. The management companies out there are doing event planning. So there's a wide variety of opportunity within our sport.
And to follow that and put a pin on that one, the timing is everything. And I think we're starting to see, if you're really paying attention, and this goes back to a thing we were talking about earlier, understanding where we're at. And 2 weeks ago, sports wasn't going to come back till the fall. Now we're starting to see June 1st, NBA coming back. The PGA Tour starting the second week of June. So don't get caught, for lack of a better term, with your pants down or off. You've got to be ready when this thing opens up, because it's going to open up sooner rather than what we thought was going to be later. Sandy, I want to come to you with a question.
Yeah, Coach, could I just add one follow-on to what everybody shared? So many of these sports leagues and properties, the PGA of America included, we source talent from third parties. We'll often rely on a temporary employment agency, a contingent labor firm, a professional employer organization, when we need labor to power our championships, to build those cities, empower those championships behind the scenes, the event marketing. So don't hesitate to go to a local temp agency and talk to them about employment opportunities. And I'll be honest, myself, I started as a temp employee at the PGA of America. I was an employee of David Wood Personnel for 90 days. And then I became a permanent employee at the PGA of America. And that was 24 years ago. So we still rely on contingent labor, temporary labor, and those roles often turn into full-time positions. But even if they don't, you're getting really valuable experience.
I always tell myself, Sandy, it's harder to get the foot in the door than it is to stay in the room that's on the other side of the particular door that you're trying to get into. Sandy, this question is for you. And then also I want Narissa to jump in from the tour. Black Girls Golf says, incredible group, address how golf can be accessible, Sandy, as a career path for those that haven't really been exposed to it yet.
I love that question. We're big fans of Black Girls Golf and the work that Tiffany Fitzgerald has done to build that organization and build that following and get people excited about not only the sport, but the career opportunities in the sport. And you know, I'll lean on the PGA WORKS brand here. The intent behind PGA WORKS is to create these very visible pathways or entry points for talent to come into the business, whether that's through a fellowship or a career exploration event like we're holding today, the pathways through our collegiate championship into PGA membership. We're trying to take the veil off the industry, particularly from a career standpoint, and make sure individuals recognize and understand that there are a myriad of career opportunities and entry points into this business. And you don't have to have a golf background to come in and have a lifelong career. I had zero golf background when I came in. And also, I'll give a plug to a company called Jopwell, J-O-P as in Peter, W-E-L-L. We are partnered with them, and they are supporting Black, Native American, and Hispanic American individuals coming into the business of sport. So you'll see us on their careers page with our opportunities as well as other sports properties. So a little bit of a roundabout answer, Coach, but really just trying to create widen the top of the funnel and widen the pathways clear into the sport.
Narissa?
Yeah, so I want to piggyback off of something that both you and Sandy had addressed earlier, which is more of the volunteer aspect. So we're talking about getting your foot in the door, and sometimes that foot might not be paid initially. So there are so many tournaments that go on across the country, and we do source labor from employment agencies, but we do a lot of recruiting for volunteers as well. And I can't tell you how many people have gotten their foot in the door by volunteering first and being an outstanding volunteer, being reliable, following up, showing up on time, and networking while they're doing it. They're getting to know, the people who are organizing all of the volunteers and getting to know who they know, and just really spreading their professional reputation by being someone who's reliable, dependable, and great to work with.
Great. Going back now, and John, I want to go to you. And it's such a difficult time and unprecedented. Nobody knows what the game plan is. it seems like a lot of young people who have reached out to me are like, I'm so confused about where to start, where to finish, where to go. Can you kind of ease their anxiety that eventually we'll get back to some kind of normal, but also that they need to embrace the new normal in what this is and not think that it's going to go all the way back to the way that it was?
Yeah, I think we can all jump in on that. I think it's a combination of everything. I have a college senior. I told this story to someone the other day that had, a multiple job offers to start, had an internship this summer, and all, got erased. So not only did, and I know there's a lot of folks out there that are seniors, in high school or in college that face this, but they lost their last year. So that's, you got to have compassion for them, and you got to put your arm around them and say everything's going to be all right. That's that human element of what, we all need to do as leaders. But Bill said it best, I think, is now's the time to network. Now's the time to find that positive influence for you. And those of us that are parents, we need to serve that role. You can serve that role as a colleague. You can serve that role to a classmate, because it is uncertain. But, everybody has to say it's going to be all right. We don't know when it's going to be all right. We certainly don't know after spending all the time I have been spending it on the Back to Golf programming, dealing with the medical experts and the CDC. We've got to solve the health issue of this before everybody gets fully positive about what's going to happen. But I would just search for those positive influencers. As Bill said, the mentors, the folks that can guide you, and Bill said it perfectly. The folks who will be honest with you, and that's really important right now.
Bill, I want you to piggyback off that last statement he just said, and he said it earlier too, having a truth teller in your group. As a person who directs the world of golf on a major stage, how important is it to have truth tellers so you don't waste a lot of time sugarcoating stuff and you can get to do the real work that you need to do?
I think, first of all, and one of the things that's been skipped today is that there's a ton of anxiety out there. And part of this process is, and John said it, is, you've got the rest of your life to work, right? So have some fun in this process. When you went to college, you may not have known what you wanted to do. You tried some things. You may not have liked them, but that was helping you sort of form your pathway. So, getting into a job, even if it doesn't work out, it can be a plus, right? You're going to learn some things. You're going to make some contacts. You may make some decisions upon, hey, I thought I wanted to do this, but I really don't. But I think most importantly is don't look for the perfect job right out of the box. Get in there, get started, meet some people. As Sandy said, learn the culture, learn what it takes to be successful. I think truth tellers are going to help you, but because what happens is, you're going to have good days and bad days. When you have bad days and you start to sort of feel bad because they're going to call you out and say, look, it's tough for everybody. Everybody's working hard. And when you're going through these types of situations, everybody's working harder a lot of times for less, but we're fortunate if you're healthy, you're going to stay, you're surrounded by great people, and we all have to keep faith that we'll get through this. And I truly believe as we do the right things and sort of get on the other side and get our, whatever that new normal is and gets businesses going, we'll start hiring and moving forward again, and we'll get through this. But you doing the right things and being prepared, and when you interview, make sure you're memorable, make sure you're super personable, you have a lot of energy. And the other thing I would tell you, just for somebody who does a lot of interviewing, is when people ask you the question, answer the question. Don't go all over the place. Answer the question. You can always add a story, but answer the question. And like I said, because people are going to do a lot of interviewing, make sure you're memorable and you're personal, and just be polite and follow up so that they don't forget you.
It's a great point. Answer the question. So many people love to overshare. They love to tell this big, elaborate story. Storytelling is an art, especially in an interview. You got to be able to keep it short, concise, but also look really, really, really good. All right, before we let you guys get out of here, because we still have the personal branding session coming, a little rapid fire. Everybody take themselves off of mute. We're gonna have a little bit of fun before we get out of here. All right, John, I'm going to start with you because I'm seeing your face. Name me the bucket list course that you still want to play.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's caught me off guard there.
That's called rapid fire.
Royal Melbourne.
Like it, down in Australia. I like it. Bill, I'm sure you played everywhere. Is there a course you haven't played yet?
Oh, I think there's a lot of places I haven't played yet, but I think that I think a golf course that would be terrific to play is Augusta National.
Oh gosh, first time I went there, I was in tears. I had dreamed about it for so long, and I got to do the digital highlights of the Masters for 2016, 2017, and I was in tears. It meant that much to me. All right, Sandy, give me you said you were never in the world of golf before the last several years. What was, quickly in 30 seconds, what was your journey before here? So people that really think, what was your interest and how did you pivot in 30 seconds?
I started in pre-law, and then I took volleyball in college. I was a grad assistant in the athletic department, and that shifted my interest towards sport business. So I got a master's in sport management, and then things took off from there.
See, it can happen to anybody. Finally, before we let you get out of here, because I have one question that just came in. And John, I'm going to go to you because it's about golf management. Is it important to have a PGA membership in order to want to get into golf management, golf operations, that sort of thing?
Absolutely. PGA, with the education, the new education that's been developed, the 3 career paths, it absolutely is where you want to be. You can be a teacher coach, you can certify in that, you can stay in the golf ops track, or you can be in executive management. The education is robust and relevant, and could absolutely become a PGA member.
You talk about networking. There's almost 30,000 members of the PGA of America. There's a networking tool right there. You got 30,000 friends in a heartbeat. Narissa, let's bring you on here. And just for people at home, keep sending your questions. If you don't have a Google account, go over to our Instagram page at PGA WORKS. We're going to start the personal branding. We're not going to take a break here in a couple of minutes, so don't go anywhere. But we're going to start the personal branding here in just a couple of minutes. Narissa, before we let this panel get out of here, is there kind of a final message that you want to put out to the students who are watching right now from your perspective?
I would say keep calm and keep networking.
I love it. Sandy?
I don't know if I can top that, but I'm going to give a shameless plug for the best networking book. I pulled it out today. It's called Build Your Dream Network by Kelly Hoey. Love this book because it's about how to network in a digital age, which is very different from what we saw by.
We talked earlier about reading and how important it is. John, your final message.
Just what Narissa and Sandy have both said. The only thing I would add, and again, networking is the most important, but educate yourself, learn something new. If you're as we said, we got time on our hands, maybe. Some do. Learn a second language, do something new, learn how to crochet, whatever it is. Learn something, make yourself marketable.
Bill, I know there's a lot of people out there that are excited for the return of the PGA Tour. In preparing for June, I believe it's 8th, what has kind of been the discussion within the tour as getting everybody ready, safe, bringing the anxiety down? And you're going to be one of the first major sports organizations to come back. How excited? Is there any trepidation?
I think, the whole focus is to create the safest environment we can for everybody on the grounds, from the players to the volunteers to the employees. And so there's been an exhausting amount of work that has gone into this, a lot of people reaching out across all the associations and learning from food and beverage and hotels and everybody that comes in contact about how can they provide an experience that's safe yet competitive. And I think, working with the doctors and everybody else, so I mean, it's not, nothing can be done successfully in a vacuum, right? So you've got to reach out. So there's been literally months of work have gone into this. And to be honest, we don't know. We think we've got a really solid plan. I think the players feel confident, and we're going to get started. We're excited about it. And I think the world is excited, because I think that's sort of the kicking off point of the world starting to return as we know it. And, we're excited about golf this weekend. We're excited. Last weekend was terrific, but nothing's like a tour event where we get a chance to watch.
Nah, it's going to be amazing. Can't wait to see that. Going to start in the great state of Texas and then move around throughout the summer in a very safe way. Thank you to John, Bill, Rissa, Sandy so much for the last 30 or 40 minutes. Thank you all very much. Reach out to them on LinkedIn and connect, network, connect. Thank you all very, very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that was our career readiness panel. And thank you all for joining us throughout the morning. And we are getting prepared for our final, what I think is perhaps the most important part of being career ready, at home networking, and being prepared when this lockdown and quarantine for this country is over. What does that personal brand look like to you, to your employer? Are you prepared? Does it look professional? All those types of things. We're going to bring in our next panel as they join us. And I'm seeing the wonderful face right now, so I'll introduce him first. Lamel McMorris, the CEO of Perennial Strategy Group, NAACP board member, and a trustee for the PGA Reach. Let's start with you, Lamel. First of all, how have you been handling this coronavirus situation? And we're talking about personal branding. I see behind you all the different magazine covers and those. How do you address your personal brand?
Thank you very much for having me, and I deeply appreciate it. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So, during this COVID, we're all forced to work virtually. And I think young people are probably the best position and the best poise to navigate this environment, but especially a post-COVID environment, because they're more adept at technology than you and I probably will ever be. And so being able to move and navigate virtually, whether it's with classes, whether it's, I heard you concluding your last panel where you talked about LinkedIn and other tools, that's how you, that's how we're going to have to move forward. And as far as myself, in terms of my business, I'm fortunate in that I pretty much started, I think when we talk about brick and mortar and buildings and offices, it's almost not necessarily a thing of the past, but definitely something that's going to begin to diminish and shrink. And so I started about 7 years ago trying to interact my work virtually and deal with a lot of my clients and what we do in DC from a government relations standpoint virtually. Surely, do I have to be on Capitol Hill at times? I work at home in Chicago. Do I have to go there at times? But I found through the effective use of technology, the effective use of technology and virtual conferencing like we're on now, I've been able to navigate, and even just basic conference calling. We've been able to navigate. And yes, there are a lot of tools, as you can see behind, with media and messaging, learning, and the ability to navigate and tell your narrative and tell it in a very clear, concise, and effective way. Especially as young people, you don't have to be immersed in your career in order to have a story. And the good thing about the era that we live in today is that everyone can begin to package and tell their narrative, their story, their major, their career aspirations, their journey, even now. And the good thing is it's probably easier to add on it as you go along the way. And then how they matriculate during school, post school, because the technology tools that you have are more readily accessible.
Can you go ahead and hit your video button? I think you hit it on accident so we can see you as you're talking. I'd appreciate it. I think what you said is a really good point there. Is you can't think of everything the way that it is, and saying I can't figure this out technology-wise, that's not going to work. That's
Right.
just not going to work.
Right.
Let's bring in now D'Angelo Simmons, CEO of Core 4 BDS Sports. He's an NBA certified agent, loves the sport of golf, loves trying to bring diversity and culture from a different perspective. D'Angelo, I think you're there. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
All right, my man. Let me ask you this. Do you think that the term personal branding, especially right now, may be misunderstood?
It depends on what era you're talking about, or generation you're talking about. If you're, of an old school, possibly, but the new millennial has shown a way to promote yourself, which makes it, a little different. I fit right there in the middle of the spectrum. I understand technology, I understand social media, but there's been, a challenge trying to do that as well. So one of those things, yeah.
It is when you deal with so many different types of people, and whether it's professional athletes, whether it's your business and health and those sorts of things, when you think of personal branding and you think of how not only you present yourself, but your company, what do you think of as the number one thing that you go back to all the time in your head?
Your purpose. What's your purpose? The vision, what do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years, and so forth? I think that's very compelling to recognize and also acknowledge. Personality plays a huge part in it because you want to be able to showcase your personality. That may be, being a funny individual to a more calm demeanor that people gravitate to and so forth. But how do you, display your personality via social media, via whatever platform that gives you that knowledge? And values. When you look at this thing, what are your number one things that you would not compromise? And typically that's your values and so forth. So those would be some of the top things that I would sit down with some of my clients and display and talk about and kind of make sure they understand and also tell them to go back and get a little thought process behind those 4 different segments.
Get out your pads of paper, take these notes. You can't remember all this good advice unless you're writing it down. I should point out that D'Angelo is the uncle of Paul Millsap, who's our other newest PGA WORKS ambassador with myself. And today at 3 Eastern, Instagram Live on the PGA WORKS page, we'll be having a discussion about how important all of this stuff is, and also from an NBA star's perspective. See if anybody else has joined us yet. Still waiting on a couple. Lamel, I'm going to come back to you. Because
am I back on video? Am I okay on video?
You're great.
Okay,
you
good,
look fantastic.
No, I'm just making sure.
We both had smooth cuts today. When you think of how you present yourself, and you deal with so many different people from so many different professions and businesses, how do you think about how you present yourself to the different people?
Yeah, presentation is key. And I think one of the things that I would like to impart upon the young people listening is one of the things I learned very early. And it's what you just stated. It's actually the ability to effectively and clearly communicate and make a presentation. They say that most people would rather jump off the top of a roof or have a root canal than speak in public. But I submit that one of the differentiators for people that I look to work with and hire is someone who is not scared and not ashamed and doesn't fear at any point getting in front of a room and speaking clearly and effectively to a group of people. And I suggest and submit to the young people listening that the ability to do that is the thing and one of the things and the attributes that will separate you from your peers. And it's clear, concise, confident communication in any group, in any realm. Clearly, you got to learn and know what you're talking about. But there's something to be said about the ability to speak publicly and clearly that I hope is an effective tool that the young people will embrace.
I think it's absolute paramount. I tell young kids all the time, I've been essentially on national television for 20 years, right out of college. Very fortunate. I still, to this day, I did it this morning for the intro of this workshop. I practice into the mirror. And people say all the time, what do you have to do that? You've done sport, you've done all these different big shows. but it doesn't matter. You're always
Absolutely.
practicing. You're always thinking, how do I deliver? Timing. What does my face look like, right?
Absolutely. It's very important. It's very important. And there, you know, I don't want to just throw this out there. I was talking to, as a matter of fact, a young high school student that hasn't even applied to college yet. And I suggested to her the other day in a mentor call that one of the basic tools, one of the things that I did even as a high school student and a college student was Toastmasters. There's a Toastmasters club. Yeah, I did Toastmasters. I would go to Toastmasters. And the thing I loved about Toastmasters is you really didn't know anyone in the room, but they would challenge you to speak extemporaneously. Sometimes you would have a prepared subject. Sometimes you would have an opportunity to write something. And there were various clubs all around, some on college campuses, some in high schools, some in corporate offices. And you can kind of float in and out, but that ability, to your point, to practice and hone up on the skill is a trait and an attribute that is just unparalleled.
We are, if you're just joining us here on the PGA Workshop, this is first ever virtual PGA Workshop. We're still waiting on a couple other panel members. This is the final panel of the day, the personal branding model. Lamel McMorris is joining us. D'Angelo Simmons is also here. D'Angelo, let's go back to you now. And there's so many kids out there from a diverse background that might think to themselves, first of all, I can't do it. And then if they get the opportunity to be in front of somebody, maybe they don't present themselves in the best possible light. How does a young, diverse minority student get over that, well, wait a second, that can't be me, and really say, I can be professional. I can do what I need to do to get the job that I want?
Well, it's developing a mindset, right? So a mindset that says, you know, whatever may come my way through successes and failures, I must continue, I must practice, I must make myself do, right? So it's about a mindset, it's about, you know, making yourself prone to failure, which, you know, inspires us at times, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of the root of success when you look at it. So I think that's one of the things that I would encourage a young individual to do is just, hey, have your mind set on failures and successes and how to navigate through your own personal challenges and personal personalities that you encounter, your traits, if you will, and move forward.
I think with all due respect to D'Angelo and Lamel, the bosses have now arrived. So let's welcome in Dee Robinson, the founder and CEO of Robinson Hill Incorporated, also a trustee for PGA Reach, and then one of the driving forces behind this entire workshop today, Rachel, maybe the PGA Works program specialist. Dee, I'm going to start with you, and then Rachel, you piggyback. How important is the personal branding, especially important for women and people of color? Dee, hello.
Oh, I think she's on mute.
There's Rachel. If you want to start, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'll let her start. She was on mute.
Okay. Dee, are you there?
I think I am.
Hi, there everyone. You are.
I wanted to say hello to everyone, and what an honor it is to be here with you all. And Coach, thank you for the introduction. And I also say I have heard all of your comments, and they've been amazing. And I did want to piggyback on a few things. And to your question, Coach, about personal branding, it is not more important than today to understand what that is, and then also go out there and affect your brand. And I talk about personal branding often, and I first think about personal branding in terms of integrity. I mean, you must be someone of honor. People have to want to trust you. And so you can do all these things, but we all know you can do all these great things, but you do one thing and your entire reputation can be destroyed. Right. And so I talk about it in terms of reputation. People are going to know about all the things that you do. And I hire a lot of people, and it's amazing how many people come who I cannot hire and want to, because we ultimately find something out about their backgrounds that unfortunately would not necessarily fit our culture. And if you don't think people are out there checking your Facebook page and your social media, you are absolutely wrong about that. They are checking it all out.
Rachel, go ahead.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I actually wanted to, you asked this question to D'Angelo about even the idea of personal branding and what it means. And I think I read a book, actually it was by Porter Braswell, the founder of Jockwell, that Sandy alluded to earlier. And it came from two strategists and two personal branding experts, and they defined personal brand as a perception or emotion maintained by somebody other than you that describes a total experience of having a relationship with you. Emphasis on maintained by somebody other than you. So I think sometimes when we think about personal branding, it's a little bit of me, what makes me, but you have to really pivot and think about that through the lens of how others view you. So I think really looking at the definition of personal branding is already a great starting point here. And because how you build your brand ultimately exists in the minds of others. And when you talk about it being relevant to people of color, women, minorities, essentially anyone other than the majority, it's a little bit different because we are already receiving a little bit of that quote unquote extra attention, a little bit of extra scrutiny, if you will. But take this as an opportunity instead of a negative. It's more of an opportunity to be most proactive about your personal brand and leverage really that extra attention to your best benefit. So I think while it can be a challenge, I say also see it as an opportunity because you can really shape how others view you.
I don't know if everyone know who Ursula Barnes is. So for the audience, if you don't know, that's the former CEO of IBM, an African-American female. And we've all been in rooms and we've been one of few. And here's a woman, the CEO of IBM, who has said, you know what, they didn't know who I was in the room. I had to tell them. You think about that. The CEO of IBM had to make sure that people knew who she was. And she said they didn't know. And what that means for you is that do not be afraid to stand up and speak up. Let people know who you are and why you, first of all, should be there. You know, we walk into rooms and sometimes don't think that we should be there or we're the only one. Well, those are opportunities. Never see them as anything other than that. But can you imagine that? I always love thinking about her. Think about our own president, our former president, Barack. I mean, the same. He had to continue to show that he's the president of the United States among Congress and used to also incense me at times. But at the same time, why not remind them who we are? Don't allow them to hold on to the stereotypes. You can fight that. And we do it one person at a time. I can't hear D'Angelo.
I think you're on mute now, Coach.
Yep, Coach, there he is.
My first mistake in 3 hours.
We all make them. It's just how you recover from them, Coach.
Thank you. By the way, if you're not talking, please put yourself on mute. I just got that note. Is that you never know, and you talked about it. I always say this to myself: never assume that anybody knows who you are. And I will have people that will. They'll apologize to me as if they're supposed to know who I am. And I tell them, if you were on CSI, which is a show I don't watch, I wouldn't know who you are. Or to your point, if you're the CEO of IBM or whatever, don't assume, especially if you're a young professional, that anybody knows anything about you. Along what you just said, Dee, I'm going to go to Lamel and ask this question because I think it's pertinent. And if somebody wants to jump in, they can. How, as a person of color, do you find the balance between your authentic self and then professionalism if they don't necessarily match up?
Yeah.
You start.
Yeah. W.E.B. Du Bois talked about, as people of color, this double consciousness that we have. On one hand, I'm a kid from the south side of Chicago, an urban area with all of its challenges, but yet a product of that environment, but yet now older, in business, having to navigate professionally, as you stated earlier. But I also, no matter how my trajectory has been, I also still can never lose that authentic ability to go home and be able to hang on the corner with my friends and talk the same language. And, we find as people of color that other racial groups don't necessarily have that double consciousness, that not only ability, but necessity to have to navigate two worlds, the ability to go to the White House, but the ability to also hang in my hood, in my house. And so it's nothing to be upset about. It is definitely a two set of rules, but it's what was stated earlier. It's all about our mentality and how we embrace the opportunity. And we should see it as an opportunity, as a special gift and a special opportunity to be able to relate to folks where we're from and also be able to navigate the worlds where we're headed.
I'd like to add to that a little bit, Lamel, because I think that, and this was said earlier, actually, in one of our previous sessions, that to reach your full potential, at work or outside of work, you do have to be your full self. But we also have to navigate this, and I mean, for lack of a better term, I like how you said it, the double consciousness, but a lot of people might know it as code switching. That it ultimately is about the adaptability and the flexibility, because particularly for minorities and people of color, we are one of the few representatives at our workforce. So sometimes we feel as though being our authentic self makes others uncomfortable. So we also have to practice it takes a little bit of practice for us to show up to be our authentic selves. But when code switching creates a negative connotation, because I love what you said, Lamel, is that we don't see it as a bad thing. And I want to emphasize the opportunity. When it becomes negative is when you lose your sense of self. Your outer layer and how you are adaptable and flexible is how others perceive you. But when you compromise who you are as a person, that's when it gets a little bit dangerous. Your values and ultimately what makes you is again when I feel it just becomes dangerous. Because listen, ultimately who we are, especially as people of color and diverse audiences, is what employers see value in. And if we start to compromise ourselves more, then we're not only shortchanging ourselves and not being who we are and being our authentic selves, we're kind of shortchanging the exact employers who are looking to us to add and bring value to their company.
I want to jump in on that because I'm going to take a little different approach. But there's Larry Fink of the world who actually manages more money than anyone in the world. He owns BlackRock. And I'm going to talk about Warren Buffett as well. So these are all money guys, by the way, because I know all the ones in this audience love money. So this is advice from folks who make lots of it and manage lots of it. The first point is this. They are now pushing for diversity on corporate boards in ways that we've never seen before. And it's not just because of the color of our skin. The diversity of thought, and it's been now quantified that having a room of people that vary in age and ethnic background, you name it, literally adds values to corporations and ultimately allow them to have better performance. And so who you are is what we want in the room, because you are a sum of all those great experiences. And look at it this way. You have something that is uniquely yours. No one has your background. No one has had the hardships. I oftentimes say that all the hard times we might have had, guess what, make us who we are and also stronger. So I want everyone to think about the coding and all that. Just think about who you are, love yourself, and just step in there, understand who you are. And then back to Warren Buffett, one of the best investments that you can make is in yourself. He states that if you think about it. And everyone in this panel, think about what Coach just said about all the rehearsing and everything. We do it, all of us. I know on this panel have worked so hard to be where we are. And it's like many things. I say courage is also a muscle. We have to work on it. Our brand, we have to work on it. So if you're out there, and my mom used to say, no one ever said it would be easy. It's not. But I promise you, if you invest and make the effort, you will come out ahead of the game. And I'm going to say one thing. I heard this earlier about note-taking. I've learned something, and I will say this. If anyone ever came into my office for advice and wanted to talk to me or interviewer, somebody and NWE would come in and they didn't have a pen and paper. All this knowledge from me is paper in hand, because you will not remember it all. But part of investing in ourselves is also studying. And you'll take some of those notes and the notes from this call, and then you can ponder on them, and then you can determine what kind of action plan you'll take.
You're on mute again, Coach.
All right, D'Angelo, we're going to bring you back in now. Sometimes I like the pregnant pause. It kind of makes me feel more powerful for this moderation. True story, real quick, D'Angelo, before I ask you the question, along what Dee was saying, when I was at ESPN and I wanted to do golf, and I went in and told the executives, they essentially told me that this will never happen. You'll never be the guy that we send to the Masters. You'll never be the guy that we send to the PGA Championship, because of my pro wrestling background, and I said, no, this is what I want to do. And I know I'll be getting the space. So I pushed and I pushed and I pushed. And eventually I made golf a part of my world, even though I was told after I'd gotten ESPN, it couldn't be a part of my world, even at that high of a level. D'Angelo, I have a question for you. How do we become comfortable? In identifying a career coach or mentor? Should I only select someone who I identify with culturally, or someone that may be more equipped to advance my career, but may not be able to identify with me culturally?
Well, I keep hammering this home, mindset, what direction do you really want to go? Do you want to be challenged as an individual to learn outside of your culture, right? I think that's very, very important. So in that regards, I was selecting to the latter part of, hey, yeah, you may not fit the scope in regards to my culture, but you will be able to teach me so many things outside of my culture that I will be able to use in life and be able to pass it on to other individuals. So I lean more on that side of things. Culturally, you're going to always find adaptability and also people that are going to be able to relate to you. So I would say just push yourself to go outside of your box. That's when you're going to optimize your brain levels and also your value in the future.
All right. Next question I have is for Rachel. Then I have a separate question, just so you guys know, for Dee and Lamel. So Rachel, this one's for you. A lot of questions coming in. How do you ensure PGA WORKS participants are branding themselves during their experience as fellows?
That's a good question. Well, one, hopefully a lot of them are tuned into today's workshop, but it's about the education, about really resonating and reiterating what we honestly have talked about all throughout our workshop today. Is we are dealing with digital natives. Their lives are living online. So when we talk about our personal brand, and it's something that we've even created a dedicated session solely based on social media and social media presence, is because of just that. They are digital natives. And sometimes you can, segment your personal brand professionally and then personally, when really they quite overlap. And everything you do online influences your personal brand as well. So it's about really being strategic and informative about how you are acting online as well as you are in person. So, you have to take that mindset, again, dealing with digital natives in the sense of bringing that relativity of what they know best, which is life online, and making sure that their personal brand exists how they want them to be portrayed to future employers on those digital platforms.
Awesome. Let's not forget, everybody, please hit mute if you're not talking, so we eliminate the background. All right, next question. Lamel, I'm going to go to you, and then Dee, I want you to piggyback this one. What are ways you can build your executive brand around the workplace?
Well, I think we've sort of touched on it. Being unashamed to tell your story and, effectively communicating not just your story and how you've come to be where you are and to do what you're doing, but also being able to effectively communicate your services and your offerings. And, one thing that you may observe if you look at some of our platforms of some of our work, whether it's phase 2 or greenlining, especially on phase 2 consulting, we try to incorporate client testimonials. So rather than, I think, and it speaks to this whole notion about branding, I think what someone stated earlier, not just you, I think it was Rachel that stated, it's not just what I believe and what we believe about ourselves, but what other people who work with us believe about us. So the best way to learn about who I am or my team and our services is to talk to someone who's worked with me and who's experienced that, or to hear them give their account or their testimony about that. So not only effectively being able to communicate who you are, your journey and your story and your narrative and your services personally, but also making sure that your story is good enough that others would be willing to affirm and amen that as well.
Well, Mel, I'd like to piggyback on that and get your thoughts. Actually, to everyone, we are talking about personal branding, building your story, but where I think I see a lot, and I'll kind of go back a little bit to the question you asked me, Coach, especially relative to our PGA WORKS fellows, is the consistency. I think I see a lot of inconsistency in a lot of, I'll say, our millennials and the Gen Z group coming up, that there is inconsistency in their brand and their story. And I didn't know how, what your thoughts were on that and how to navigate even that. It's going to be ever changing. I mean, we're not the same people we were 5 years ago based on our experiences and what have you, but how do you still maintain that level of consistency in your brand and in your story? Because I think that's super important
Rachel,
for a lot of our young folks.
Rachel, when you were saying inconsistency, just for the audience, and so we're clear, you're saying that they are different when you see them in different points, or?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that they have a brand, even just taking the social, I'll just even take a social brand and sort of your brand in person. Sometimes those are inconsistent, but definitely what you just hit on too, Dee, is, and maybe that goes back to the code switching, what we were talking about. You also have you can still be consistent with your brand relative to different situations.
Well, I'm going to chime in there on the question of the difference in sort of the executive or the corporate environment that I hope they all find themselves in. I know we're going to talk about how to go about doing that, but I will say this, corporations are about the people and also the community. So I think if you also looked at this panel, many of us are doing things outside of our work environments. Lamel and I are doing work here today with PGA Reach. But the things that we're doing out in the community and adding value and having people know that you're doing those things, again, another way it distinguishes you. It's another way that people start to identify you. I know that I want someone who I hire, and one of the things I ask myself about that person, what do they have to lose? Or what are they doing outside of just work? How are you contributing to the community? And, when I see that kind of dedication to helping others, it tells me a lot about a person instantly. And so for me, I really would focus on not only making sure that the work that you do is the quality work, doing the work, being on time. If you can't make a deadline, let somebody know. Never just stressing about all those things, managing a process. But at the same time, I want people to also manage their external life because it carries in oftentimes. And we know many corporations and their executives do a lot of charity work. So I just think that that's something in terms of building brand and how it also transcends into the corporate workplace adds value.
Dee, I'll jump in here real quick. And I think I hear this a lot from students that they don't feel like they matter right now. That if somebody wants to get into TV, I say, just start a podcast for yourself. Well, nobody's going to listen. I said, it doesn't matter. It's about you doing the work, because every big company started with an idea. Every big company started with nothing. Every company started that way. And so to now, Dee, and you obviously want to say something, you can't feel like it has to be 1 million people to pay attention to you.
Okay, so my company just turned 25 years old this year. So 2020 is 25-year anniversary. And I want everyone on this call to know that I left my corporate job. I remember the time when I wasn't sure when the rent was going to get paid, and I had one idea. And I had very little. I had a couple of employees. There's this concept that I embrace called momentum. So as you do one thing, you can do another and another, and it just keeps going. So suddenly a company with 2 employees and then 5 and now thousands, you remember it started with me. And then to your point, Coach, we have to have or stop having this all or nothing mentality, or I got to jump out and be highly successful. There is success and failure. I say that as well. You're going to keep trying things and then it's going to work and then it may not. But what did you learn? And you'll take that learning on to the next thing and then to the next thing. So, Coach, you're absolutely right. I hope I've started so many things and I found great success. But at the same time, I found things that I just did not make happen. And I said, okay, what am I supposed to learn from it? And then I moved on. But we cannot allow failure to get in our way. Just cannot.
Especially right now. All right, I want to bring D'Angelo back into the conversation. I've got a question for you from Julie Perez, D'Angelo. She's a kinesiology major attending chiropractic school in the fall. Are there any words of advice for someone interested in working in the sports industry as a health professional who at times feels underestimated?
Wow, good question. Be astute to the highest level you possibly can, to be able to articulate to any individual that can give you that opportunity, to be able to sweep them off their feet in regards to knowledge that they may not be knowledgeable of, and also just be relatable. Know the target, know the individuals that you're seeking to get the opportunities from, and be able to identify things that may be surrounding that you have knowledge about. But I would say just be very, very astute. Don't leave any stone unturned in regards to the level of things that you know that you can improve on to get those opportunities.
Coach, I'd like to, I know that was addressed specifically maybe to D'Angelo, but I want to add to that. One, I couldn't agree more, is to be a constant student, but I guess telling of my own personal experiences and also piggybacking off what Dee said about let your failures kind of be your successes. I think that's how you phrase it, Dee, is, and I am totally aging myself here, but let your haters be your motivators. I remember very, very strongly that I am a 5'1". I weigh 105 pounds soaking wet, and I'm stepping onto the first tee of a golf course with no one that looks like me, and I'm playing on an all men's team, and they're just like who is this? Like, who is this girl coming up here? And it is so hard to feel underestimated in that capacity. And I made it, though, my impetus. I did make it my impetus to really excel and to prove them wrong. And I take that into even my career today. I know that I'm still an other. I know I'm still a woman of color in an industry that I am probably underestimated as well. But I prove myself, and I want to always be a student. I'm absorbing constantly. While I might be amongst
I do not want to.
I might be amongst these great panelists here, and I'm honored to be even kind of on their level, but I absorb from them as well. I'm constantly learning from those that I surround myself with, and the underestimation becomes my motivation to continue to excel. And it's easier said than done. I completely get it. And when you're first starting out, there's going to be some headwinds and there's going to be some failures. But that underestimation should absolutely, you can learn and hone that in to be your motivation, because, and gather, I beat everyone on that day where everyone was looking at me like, who the hell is this girl? And then they all wanted me on their team at that point. But I mean,
I've played with her. She's fierce, guys.
Thank you, Dee.
Rachel, don't underestimate yourself. You are a force of nature. I can say for one, you don't take no for an answer.
No.
You don't stop, and you're up all day.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, pretty much.
I've got a question, and I think Dee's the perfect person for this question. Cornelia Simmons, Johnson C. Smith University. What advice, Dee, and anybody else can jump in after Dee, would you give to someone seeking someone like yourself for advice and mentoring? How would they approach individuals like yourself when it's intimidating?
Oh, that's a great question. First of all, one thing I'm going to say is a lot of things about how we think. And Rachel, I was going to start here when you started that, because we count ourselves out even before we start. And a lot of housing.
D, real quick. I don't
They're not going to or
hit your video,
anything.
D.
And I'll talk about the band.
D, hit your video.
Is there? Can you?
I hit your video so we can see you.
I just turned it off. It was on. Can you see me now?
No, you've disappeared. I can
see her. Okay, Coach.
Oh, okay, cool. My apologies. Go ahead, D. Sorry.
No, that's okay. No, that's okay. So anyway, I was just thinking about the how we think about ourselves. But the question was about how do you approach someone? First of all, people want and are willing to give you advice. And I'm going to say, I met Larry Fink at an economic club dinner, and you would think, up there on the desk, and I wanted to talk to him. So first of all, I literally just walked to him and introduced myself. But here's the deal. I didn't go up there asking, hey, I want this from you. I paid attention to his speech and I made some comments about it. I wanted to know what things that made him stay up at night. And we just suddenly had an engagement. And oftentimes I would simply meet people and then just do that. And then if there was an ask later, I might come to them later and just say, it was great talking to you. I really appreciate it. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to reach out to you in the future for some advice or anything. And most people would say yes to that. People want to help, but it depends on, but I don't believe you go in at first always asking for things. What do you have to give? And what you have to give is an engagement and that you cared about them enough to talk about them or ask them about their family or some simple things like that. Now, you got some masters on this panel, so, and Lamel, I'm seeing you chomping at the bit because you are a king of it, but I'll turn it over to you, tag to you, because I think we all know we didn't get here without being able to engage other people.
I appreciate that, Dee. I'm, first of all, on this note, let me commend the young people who, even in the midst of this panel, have begun reaching out to us, seeking advice and introducing themselves and asking for counsel. It is that type of initiative and engagement that will, again, continue to separate and differentiate you from your peers and allow you to exceed. So my mentors, I was joking with, I did an interview the other night with a reporter, and I told her, I said, look, my mentors at home in Chicago, they didn't actually choose me. I chose them. They weren't the ones who were reaching for me. I was always asking for time at their offices. I was always asking for, and never asked for any material or money. All I wanted to do was have an opportunity to be in their office, to see them doing what they're doing, to ask questions, to seek counsel. And I am a direct representation and a direct result of the men and women in my community and elsewhere who poured into me. And so I think earlier we talked about, someone made reference to how do young people connect where they are now to where they're going and not feeling adequate and being able to tell their story. Look, I make reference, Coach, to being a kid who grew up on 66 in Cottage Grove, because the line may not necessarily be straight, but there is a line from my childhood, having grown up where I am, to everything I'm doing today. And I want to tell the young people listening, stop putting pressure on yourself for this line to be straight. I was a religion major in college who went on to seminary and divinity school, who owns a lobbying firm in DC and then a sports agency. And now I'm doing real estate development, rebuilding my neighborhood back home in Chicago. The line is not always straight, but the line is starting and the story is starting right now. And I assure you that your line is being drawn now, but don't be put pressure on yourself to ensure that the straight line. And so I'm a kinesiology major, and then I got to make sure that this happens. No. Continue to work, study, work hard. And sometimes, as aggressive as we have to be and need to be as businessmen and women, sometimes you also have to leave a little room for some things to be organic and develop and kind of grow and nurture on their own. Dee made a reference